Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. There's something slightly strange going on because I'm hearing myself in delay, which you may already be hearing as well, in which case you would have heard me describing Prince Andrew as being a dickhead, which of course he is. Anyway, listen, we've got a big show for you today. Rafe Heidelmann-Koo is here. Kelvin McKenzie is here. We're going to be talking to Robert Jobson, royal author, of course, as well, because the biggest story probably of the year, and possibly of several years, broke yesterday, shortly after we finished the show yesterday morning. And it's all over the front pages, the arrest of Andrew, an incredible picture that you can see there, front page of the Times, of Andrew lying down in the back of a car, trying to avoid being pictured as he left the police station in Norfolk last night. The arrest of Andrew is what it says there. Downfall, front page of the Daily Mail. Looking haggard, shamed and haunted, Andrew is released from police custody 11 hours after his arrest, plunged the modern monarchy into its gravest peril. The Sun, now he's sweating, which is not a bad page one as well. First royal to be held since Charles I in 1647. 11 hours in police custody on his 66th birthday. The King says the law must run its course. Rafe, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
I thought to myself yesterday, how fortunate that a royal historian is going to be with us first thing in the morning to explain just exactly how dire the situation now is for the royal family, and not only for the royal family, but for the King, for the possibility that he may have to step down, step aside, all manner of things to talk about this morning.
Yes, I've said for a long time, that the Epstein scandal is the biggest political crisis and royal crisis of modern times.
Yeah.
Bigger than the Profumo scandal in '63, which eventually brought down the Macmillan government. We had that with Mandelson and Starmer, obviously, but also bigger than the abdication crisis of 1936,
yes,
when Edward VIII became the Duke of Windsor, because at that time everyone saw that as a story of romance. There were no criminal charges, none of these sort of salacious and sordid details.
It's a love story, in other words.
It was a love story. This is bigger than both of those. It has, of course, shaken the monarchy to its core. But, the key thing is look at that photograph of Andrew. I mean, pride comes before a fall. Yeah. He's even fallen down in the car, it seems, because he's lying down so low there.
And it was interesting that I was watching the coverage live last night as it was happening, and people were saying, how bad is the advice that he's now getting, that, he doesn't realise that if he slinks down in the back of a seat of a car, they can take a picture through the front window with a flash, and they'll see how he looks, and he just looks dreadful, doesn't he?
He'd have been better
it's a terrible look.
He'd have been better off in the boot with a blanket over him, I think, than anything else.
Well, even if he'd sat there with a blanket over him, or a hat, or held a newspaper up, anything's better than that. That will be the epitaph of Andrew, won't it?
But when you think about Andrew, a man who loved uniforms, loved dressing up in the robes of a Knight of the Garter, strutting around like a peacock, I mean, the downfall couldn't be more acute than in this sort of a photograph. And of course, the reality is, when New Year came around, he was probably thinking, this is it, I'm going to fade into obscurity now. Yeah. I've been banished to remote Norfolk, and I'm going to live out my time there, or maybe I'll go to this palace in Abu Dhabi that I have, and no one will think about me ever again. And probably the monarchy thought, well, at least we're over the worst. Yes. Well, actually, now he's in hotter water than he has ever been before. And this, of course, this is just the start, because all of these discussions yesterday were about his misconduct in public office, allegedly, tied into his role as a trade envoy. But we still, of course, have allegations made who says that she was sex trafficked into Royal Lodge, and that she was then taken into Buckingham Palace for afternoon tea and a tour. Now, that potentially involves royal residences coming within the purview of a criminal investigation, which is quite remarkable.
Does that mean that they could be searching Buckingham Palace next?
Well, remember, he also had his office was in Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
So he was actually conducting business in Buckingham Palace during the time of Epstein. So whether that office is still extant in some capacity, who knows? But also, of course, you now have the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown calling for an investigation into the Lolita Express, Epstein's private jet. There were 90 flights coming into this country, 15 of them after he had been released from prison as a sex convict. And so all of that, of course, could very well involve Andrew as well. There are 7 police investigations going away at the moment, Norfolk, Thames Valley Police, Surrey Police, and elsewhere.
Essex.
So many of them that they've now joined forces. And so they're now working together.
And the National Crime Agency, I think, is involved as well.
And the National Crime Agency.
I was reading yesterday, and you'll know more about this than me, that the King cannot be investigated for committing any kind of crime. He has, I think, what's called sovereignty
Well, the laws are enacted and enforced in the name of the sovereign, so the sovereign cannot try himself.
Right.
But the sovereign can try his brother. So if this does go to court, it will be Rex versus Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
But
So
can he be called as a witness in a case?
the king can contribute to a discussion, and they wouldn't necessarily be called into the box, but could certainly give out could give a statement.
Right. And he certainly indicated that his office, the King's office, and the royal family will cooperate with any police investigation.
Exactly.
So
And
he's already kind of said that he would talk to them, right?
And you'll remember it was when the Queen remembered gifts being exchanged with the Paul Burrell case that led to that case falling down completely. But we should say also, you mentioned that abdication there. Let's be clear here. The monarchy has been shaken, but there's no evidence that this has really led to a huge decline in support for the institution of the monarchy or in support for the king. And abdication isn't part of our constitutional procedure anyway. There was an aberration with Edward VIII in 1936, but we're the only country in Europe that doesn't have abdication. It's now par for the course throughout Europe. Even popes now abdicate with Benedict XVI and in the Middle East. But we have the only sacramental coronation where you actually anoint with holy oil. We have a religious ceremony for the late Queen and for the current King. The coronation was a sacrament, like becoming a priest. It's a job for life. And unless you're mentally deficient or physically frail, or you yourself are embroiled in a terrible scandal, there is no chance of abdication.
Although King Charles must be feeling a bit like Keir Starmer. You know, he wanted to be king for so many years, decades he waited for his mother to pass on and for him to get the crown. And it's been a disaster, isn't it? He's had the whole Harry and Meghan scenario, which is really, put a lot of focus on how hopeless it all is. And now this.
Yeah, not a poisoned chalice, but a poisoned crown. I mean, think about the poor chap, the longest apprenticeship in history. He finally gets there after 70 years of his mother being on the throne. And he has his wayward son and his awful daughter-in-law. And then, of course, he has Andrew to deal with. Plus, he's battling cancer at the same time. Terrible for this man who wanted to make, he won't have a very long reign. He wanted to make a big impact. And so much of this has been overshadowed. But where there are questions still to us, because you say that the king is immune from all of this, is with regards to why the police didn't ask the Department of Justice in America for the Andrew Epstein files earlier.
Yes.
Was he actually being treated differently because he was a prince? Because if they had gone a few months ago to the DOJ, they would have got these files before they were released by Congress. And this arrest could have happened months earlier. So I think questions do need to be asked. Are we all really equal before the law, as Keir Starmer was saying, or was Andrew getting preferential treatment? And I should say as well, a bit rich for Keir Starmer to say that we're all equal before the law, given the scandals of two-tier policing and two-tier justice we've had in this country.
And also Nick Brown, two words that you don't hear Keir Starmer ever mentioning. And nobody knows what's ever happened to him. He's just sort of disappeared off amongst all sorts of allegations, lurid and otherwise. What about, though, the interesting aspect of the charge or the investigation itself into misconduct in a public office? Because I was reading yesterday that's actually quite a difficult charge to make stick, right? Not least because it was kind of augmented in a way by the previous Labour government, I believe, to include things like journalists talking to whistleblowers, so that those whistleblowers and possibly the journalists could be prosecuted if they were taking part in the removal of, say, delicate information from a public body like the Home Office or like the prison service or something like that. And so it's entirely possible that on this particular aspect of the investigation, it's quite difficult to bring a charge. Yeah,
and I spoke to a barrister friend who also thought perhaps charges wouldn't be placed because they're not quite sure whether being a trade envoy qualifies as holding public office. So misconduct...
And they're not sure whether the documents themselves were actually official secrets, right?
So misconduct in public office is primarily a common law offence rather than a statutory piece of legislation. And there's a very high threshold. So first you have to decide, people like policemen, civil servants, they qualify as public office holders. Does a UK trade envoy have that capacity? That's the first thing to do. Secondly, if he is a public office holder, what were the things he's being accused of? Was he doing them as UK trade envoy or in his private sort of life? That's the next thing. And then thirdly, was he willfully misconducting himself? So did he know what he was doing was wrong, or should he have known? Because ignorance is nothing. should he have known what he was doing is wrong?
I think that he would pass that threshold, I would imagine. It's just a matter of whether or not the actual information that he was passing on, I suppose, is delicate.
But I would say that the reports certainly you would think would be confidential, and also the fact that there was The other thing, of course, is Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Here you have the British Army involved in a project to secure investment for Afghanistan, and here you have insider trading, essentially. You have knowledge being given to Epstein about gold deposits and so forth in that country.
Yeah, exactly right. And so as far as the other investigation goes and the allegations about the Lolita Express and all of that, presumably the police at the moment are not looking at that. I don't know.
Well, they have just been given by Gordon Brown a 5-page memorandum, which is a collation of evidence from the Epstein files that he's put together, and he sent that off to various things. And I'm sure they will be, because remember, it seems as if this entire thing about misconduct in public office and the arrest came about because of Republic, the anti-monarchy organisation.
Yes.
They are the ones who lodged a complaint with the police, and it was on Republic's request that this investigation happened.
Right.
So now that Gordon Brown has done the same thing on sex trafficking, I fully expect that to be investigated properly.
Right. And so what happens now in terms of the actual the case itself? Because obviously we were told yesterday the King was not informed that the arrest was going to be made. Andrew wasn't either, obviously, and they turned up at his door with 6 police cars at 8 a.m. We found out about it, I think, just before 10 that it had happened. So they then spent most of the day searching his properties, both in Windsor and in Sandringham. So what happens next?
So it's going to be a few weeks now while the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Services, and the police go through the evidence that they've managed to get. I mean, mind you, if Andrew had legal advice or whatever, he's had a long time to dispose of incriminating evidence.
He has.
Not only months, years involved.
And he's only just moved house.
And he's just
well.
moved house.
Right.
A very convenient time for doing all this stuff. But anyway, it's going to be several weeks because they want to make sure that they do have enough evidence there to actually secure a conviction. So it's going to be very difficult now because everyone is now focused on this. But of course, the law moves very slowly.
It does. And of course, every paper has done reams and reams. The Mail's got 15 pages on it. The law must take its course 2 and 3. A knock on the door at 8 a.m. on his 66th birthday, then arrested, driven to a police station, locked up in a bare cell. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I mean, all day yesterday, people were kind of going, this is actually really happening. Is the brother of the King, who's still in line to the throne. We're going to be talking to Robert Jobson coming up, Sunday Times best-selling royal author, and he's calling for him to be stripped of his accession. I'm
sorry, this is completely wrong, and I like Robert Jobson very much, but people don't understand how this works. And yesterday there was Kate Williams, who is as thick as 2 planks of wood, on Newsnight yesterday, saying. Predicts. Oh yes, I know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to remove him from the line of succession. I'm sorry, you can't do that because you'd have to consult all the other realms. People don't understand that it's not up to Parliament to change the law of succession, because if you did that, you could end up with different kings on different thrones around the Commonwealth.
Right.
So you need to basically you would need to have Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Jamaica, 14 realms would need to get together and agree to do this.
They probably would, though.
But that's going to suddenly make countries like Jamaica and elsewhere start to decide, well, now we're discussing this, do we want the monarchy at all?
Yeah.
Let's do away with it. So you would open up a Pandora's box if you go down there.
Right.
But I think quite often in this country, we're so sort of Anglo-centric, we don't think about the wider consequences or the legal impossibilities of acting unilaterally in this country.
Yes. So the line of succession is as follows. William, Prince of Wales, Prince George of Wales, number 2, number 3, Princess Charlotte of Wales, Prince Louis of Wales, all, of course, William and Kate's children. Prince Harry, still in there, Duke of Sussex, number 5. It's like the top of the pops, isn't it? Prince Archie of Sussex, Princess Lilibet of Sussex. Here's a question for you, because I was talking to somebody about this last night. How are they still able to use the Sussex title when it was supposed to have been taken away from them?
Well, because they are off Sussex. I mean, they don't have a surname. They have to be off somewhere. So that's their territorial...
Can't they be of Montecito?
That's their territorial designation. But they are legally... I mean, Andrew still is legally a duke. Yeah. He's not His Royal Highness the Duke of York. He's His Grace the Duke of York.
Right.
Because only Parliament can take away your peerage title. Same thing with Mandelson, but he's choosing not to use it. But this just goes to show you, look, you have 8 people there, Most of them are under the age of 20.
Yeah.
The idea that you need to remove Andrew, who's 66, the idea, there's not like that film King Ralph, where suddenly everybody gets blown up in the line of succession. So I think people can just relax. He's not going to become... He's not going to become king, you know?
Right. Now, it is fascinating, though, isn't it, how people are looking at all of this. You know, people are now... The conversation is being had up and down the country, whether we like it or not. Is there any point to the royal family anymore? And should they still be, you know, recognised as the kind of, I don't know, the overarching sort of monarchy of this country?
Absolutely. We always need to, you know, pan out, zoom out and look at the broader picture here and get out of the salacious aspects. And one of the problems in this country is that, of course, the royal family always make good copy in the tabloids, but there's very little taught to our children, or that there's very little education more generally about the purpose of monarchy, the value of the crown, not only constitutionally but also socially and culturally. It stands at the apex of, I would say, civic Britain, and the idea of the voluntary ethic, the work ethic. The very best of Britain comes into play because the monarchy isn't just the head of state, they're also the head of the nation. They're there at those crucial moments in our life, be it D-Day anniversary celebrations or moments of tragedy, we come together. But they also bring attention to all the unsexy causes in the world, things that the media would never focus on. Soup kitchens, opening hospitals, St John's Ambulance, the Girl Guides, all those things.
Well, it's kind of ironic. Yesterday, the King turned up at London Fashion Week.
Yeah, of all the
places to be at.
Well, he is the best dressed man in the world. It's long been said for many years, and perhaps he had a deserving place.
Yeah, perhaps
place to be there. But just remember, you know, that one of the reasons Britain has the world's oldest, longest, continuous, unbroken constitution is because of the monarchy. It's a stabilising factor in our country and in our life. And wherever you look in the world, the countries that are the most successful, most progressive, most democratic are monarchies. Sweden, Netherlands, Norway, Belgium, Canada, Australia. No one thinks that these are backward countries.
No, but they're not thought of as having the same kind of closeness to a monarchy as we have, I don't think. I mean, Canada could say that they're a monarchy because of the royal
but the
family.
Scandinavian countries can.
But they can, but then they don't actually have as day-to-day an important sort of role, do they?
No, well, certainly in Norway they're also having questions because there's also implications there.
They've all been on the Epstein Island, haven't they?
But yes, but this idea that somehow monarchy is anachronistic and is not in keeping with the 21st century, actually the evidence shows just very well that it doesn't stop a nation from being the most progressive and advanced and democratic.
No, too. Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, according to The Sun, her whereabouts remain unknown amid reports police would also want to quiz her over her links to sex trafficker Epstein. So, there's Calvin McKenzie heckling us from around in the corner there. Shocking state of affairs. So, did they arrest her next? Is that the next, where it goes next?
Well, I did an interview. For a change, I was interviewing a royal historian, Andrew Lowney, on my show, and he said, of course, that Sarah and Andrew were integral, he alleges, to Epstein's enterprise.
Right.
And that they were right at the heart of this whole thing. And so, you know, I'm sure that there are certainly, you know, investigations going on to her involvement. Now there are questions circling around the two daughters as well. Hitherto, the British people have said, you know, well, the sins of the father mustn't be meted out onto the children, quite rightly. But there are questions now about who was funding their lavish lifestyle. Yeah. You know, one of them was working on £19,000 a year for a film company and did 17 holidays in 1 year. Right. So there are lots of questions there that still need to be answered and exposed. But yes, they've gone AWOL. No one knows who they are. So we'll just have to see whether...
And a lot of people making the point this morning that what about Peter Mandelson? You know, how come he hasn't been arrested yet? Because we know that from documents that have been seen, certainly, that he was also passing information to Jeffrey Epstein, which may have been actually more sensitive and more classified than anything that Andrew was giving him.
Yes, and the Mandelson thing makes yesterday's saga rather curious, because actually Andrew himself would not normally have been arrested yesterday. Normally he would have just have been called in for questioning.
Or they might have even asked him just to show up,
they would have had a search warrant, but they would have just invited him in for questioning to come in. Yeah. The fact that they chose to arrest him and do it on his birthday, perhaps says that this was much more about doing what the Americans do with the perp walk, you know, to make it as embarrassing as possible. But that does sort of raise the ante on Mandelson.
Well, it really does. And so I guess all of these different investigations that are going on into Andrew you'd have to presume that there are other investigations going on into Mandelson, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and just remember, we still haven't seen the end of the Epstein files.
Right.
People are still going through it, so there's still more revelations that could potentially come out. We don't know with Andrew what the evidence is for justifying these actions, apart from the emails that we've seen. Was it the fact that the police have actually discovered more things in the Epstein files that we're not privy to? Or was it actually, could it be that because the king, in his previous statement, said that the palace will work with the authorities, did the police actually visit the palace and have discussions there?
Yeah.
And were they given information by the palace now,
Yes.
which led to this arrest?
Well, one of the questions that we were speaking of yesterday morning, Will Geddes was here, he's coming in later on this afternoon as well, because he knows quite a lot of the Royal Protection Squad type people. And I was saying to him, what information are they privy to, and what kind of pressure could be put on Royal Protection Squad individual members to say, this is what we saw, this woman was brought into the palace, we were told to say nothing, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so along with the police having to ask questions about why they didn't contact the DOJ, what about the police and the close protection officers? Because they were there with him. Were they, covering up their eyes and their ears with what was happening?
Yes.
You'd have to be blind, deaf, and dumb not to have known something was fishy if you're going to believe all of the allegations and scandals here. And also, Andrew had apparently embedded with him David Stearns, one of Epstein's employees, going with him on these trade envoy meetings. In Thailand, of course, Andrew was supposed to have had 40 prostitutes in 4 days.
So quite some going there.
It's quite good.
I'm surprised he had any chance to read any of the trade documents, to be honest.
And if you don't sweat in a Thailand monsoon with 14 prostitutes, then you really are an impressive character.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But anyway, point is, though, what were these chaps doing? Now, there are even allegations, there are rumours that one of these protection officers actually got really close to Andrew and they became really chummy.
Right.
So was he turning a blind eye deliberately to all of this? There are big questions.
And was he being in some way encouraged, shall we say, with enticements to
of one
keep
sort
quiet,
or another?
of one sort or another? Yeah, absolutely right. Sticks to high heaven, all of this. There's a lot of people going, would you stop talking about Andrew? No! Because this is a massive story, so don't be so ridiculous. Andrew doesn't seem like a very nice character to this high-tech, but he can't be hounded to death, as I fear may happen. I want to see the grooming gangs get investigated before Andrew. A lot of people are saying this is a distraction. There's other things going on. I mean, yesterday, for example, the woman Dame Antonio Romeo was appointed to be the first female leader of the cabinet secretary, and she's got a woke record that would scare the pants off you if we were to investigate it. So we'll come on to that in a second. We should do some super chats. I think we had some super chats coming in. Let's get a few of those in. And many of you, of course, have got plenty to say about this. This from Happy Bear. Andy is a decoy to save Mandy. Well, I don't know about that. I think Mandy's still in the brown stuff. Purple Rain says a salt shaker. What is that? Is that code for something? I don't know what that means. LTL says, I can't believe Andrew has been arrested. It's a real shame that since the Queen died, the family have started to crumble. Great show. Yeah, I mean, I suppose you might say, for the sentimental people out there, that it's good that she hasn't had to be alive and around to see this happening to her favourite son.
Yeah, you can only imagine what she would have felt like. So it's a blessing in a way that the Duke and the Queen aren't here, although, of course, they did have their fair share of grief towards the end with Harry. This would have been, and that's really, I suppose, one of the great tragedies of this is the pure humiliation for all members of the royal family.
Yes.
They stand at the apex of our class system, of our social structure. We're supposed to be deferential and respectful. They're there. They deliberately wear ermine and uniforms to accentuate how special they are. And yet they now know whenever they go on any walkabout, wherever they go to any opening, everyone's going to be thinking about Andrew in their mind, and that must be very embarrassing and humiliating.
Absolutely right. And finally, just one last message there that I didn't get around to reading. It's about actually the situation with the RAF. Easy Boy says, is Starmer stupid, blocking the USA from the RAF bases because of European law? He doesn't have a brain. This is the story that is on the front of the Telegraph as well, which is telling us that Keir Starmer apparently is blocking the USA from using bases in the UK to bomb Iran, which doesn't seem to make very much sense.
No, particularly not if you want to be seen as the Trump whisperer.
Well, exactly.
And it's not as if Britain hasn't in the past bombed illegally by the standards of international law. Going into Iraq was illegal. I'm pretty sure the bombing of Libya by France and Britain, where Cameron was around, that was illegal as well. So why suddenly he's having a
we
moral...
bombed Syria the other day, and that was also apparently illegal.
Syria. So why suddenly we're having a moral crisis on this point? And you think, is this chap an idiot? Because of course he knows that.
The answer is yes.
That's the poll. That's the poll for the day, which we can close immediately. But the point is here, America can block the Chagos deal, because since 1966 there's been an agreement there that any change there has to be approved with America.
Right.
So you don't want to start, embarrassing Trump on the global stage by preventing him from doing what he wants to do, because the heavy bombers for the U.S. Air Force are based at RAF Lakenhall in Mildenhall. I was there a few years ago actually to see them there. So you don't want to annoy the Trump.
It doesn't make any sense, does it? Absolutely, utterly ridiculous. Meanwhile, I heard a message from Will Geddes who says that the live clock on the screen is not there. I don't know what's happened to it, but maybe you can reinsert it. This is Romeo's record, by the way. I thought I'd read this out. Stephen Edgington put this up yesterday. You probably saw it. At the Home Office, since April 2025, more than 65,000 illegal migrants have entered Britain on her watch, because she was obviously attached to the Home Office. She was dubbed the Queen of Woke at the Department of Trade and Industry. Weekly emails on trans issues, non-binary and bi visibility days. She was the senior responsible officer for the disastrous Ministry of Justice probation privatisation, which cost hundreds of millions of pounds. She's also the civil service gender champion. She used to blog about male allyship. She supported Stonewall. She had campaigns on menopause awareness while leading the Ministry of Justice. She was accused of bullying in New York City. She urged staff to add pronouns, watch trans films like Seahorse, which I haven't seen. Also flew the trans flag over her HQ in New York. Told officials to double down on supporting the Black Lives Matter agenda. Promoted Guardian articles attacking Brexit, allowed civil servants to attend Tai Chi and calligraphy workshops during office hours, oversaw Brexit trade departments, delivered mostly rollover EU deals, led the Ministry of Justice overseeing overcrowded prisons, court backlogs, mistaken releases, and spent £31,000 of taxpayers' money on transatlantic flights while commuting from New York City to London.
Well, she sounds like one of the more moderate civil servants. But that's the problem, right? It's impossible.
But at least she's a woman.
It's impossible to find someone in civil service who doesn't subscribe to all of those, who's in high powers, in high office in the civil service. As I said before, we need to understand Britain is a post-revolutionary society. Our institutions look the same, but the people who run them are cuckoos in the nest. You don't need to have red flags flying from rooftops and mobs in the streets these days. We've had this quiet revolution where everything from the civil service to our museums, the media, everything has been captured by people just like this woke woman. And you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who has enough who has enough career status to come into one of those jobs who doesn't subscribe to all of those sorts of policies and beliefs. That's why we need to clean the shop out completely with a new government that can actually reverse the long march through the institutions. Actually, in my chapter that I read for our new book at the New Culture Forum, Immigration, the Betrayal of Britain, I have a whole chapter there about how you need to tackle and castrate the blob, the judiciary, the House of Lords, the quangos, but crucially, the civil service. Because there's no point in having great policies if you can't implement them. And there's people like this, that, as we saw with the Tory party in the Rwanda plan, who try to put obstacles in the way of everything.
And she won't change. They'll be flying a trans flag from the Cabinet Office, won't they, the way things are going. There was a great message there about Rafe's hands, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. Somebody said that you've got beautiful hands. I don't know what that means. Rafe has beautiful hands. What a lovely man. Mama Kalisa. The other one that's good and interesting is, and it shows you precisely how the hypocrites of the Labour government work. Brendan Cox, who is, of course, the widower of Labour MP Joe Cox, who was murdered 10 years ago, has held meetings with ministers over the past year on key policy areas government transparency documents have shown, despite his admissions of sexual misconduct. You might remember the story of Brendan Cox, who had to leave, I think, one of the big charities. Was it Oxfam that he was in? Save the Children, there you go, thank you. Because of the fact that he couldn't keep his hands off women who didn't actually want him to put his hands anywhere near them. And he was constantly sort of goosing them and generally molesting them. I mean, that's a word, isn't it? That's what you do. And maybe a bit old-fashioned, my apologies. He was constantly kind of, touching up women, and sort of making unwanted advances to them. and he was said to have had a serious error of judgment. But he's been working with the government. He's a sex pest.
Yeah, well, it's the pure hypocrisy from the virtue signalling set, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, had this been the Tories doing something like this, it would be Tory sleeves, and this would be all over the backbenchers on the Labour Party. And then they always turn a blind eye to this. But, you know, why on earth is anyone actually interested in having this chap? What are his qualifications?
Oh, I know, he doesn't have any.
This is what I don't understand. But particularly now, in the wake of Me Too and in the wake of the Epstein files, we're in the middle of talking about, you know, women being victims from all this. It just seems to be completely...
Well, I mean, you can't move for Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer talking about, you know, safeguarding women and girls. So why don't you invite a sex pest into Downing Street?
Yeah, well, Jess Phillips is the last person to talk about safeguarding women. This is a woman who has continually failed to address the issue of misogyny, rape, sexual assault in the Islamic world, because, of course, her majority in her constituency depends upon a few hundred Muslim votes.
Yeah.
You know, if someone cat whistles someone on the street, she'll be up in arms about it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're completely silent about the rampant sexual and other violence against women in certain communities.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Finally, just to finish up with something nothing to do with politics or indeed the royal family, apparently non-stop rain actually really does depress people. This is a study from the University of Portsmouth, analysed survey data from 400,000 Britons about their emotions during different weather conditions. And apparently we have had, there's a town in Cornwall called Cardinham where they have suffered 50 consecutive days of rain and everyone's very depressed.
Well, that really required some investigation, didn't it? Thank you very much for bringing us to Bleeding Obvious.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this has been, I'm normally quite a chipper chappy, and this has got me down so much. I mean, just the constant greyness as well. I used to live in Canada, and we would have minus 30 degrees Celsius, but the skies were blue, the sun was reflecting off the snow, and you felt really good.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is always the most depressing time of year, under the most depressing government of all time, in the most depressing era. So this really can't get any worse than it is right now, I think.
Yeah, and apparently we've got more bad news. The rain is set to stay for at least another month. Forecasters expect the rest of February and into March to be very changeable with more wet weather. So, you know, get your galoshes out is what I can suggest. Somebody said Jess Phillips looks like Mr. Ed. Isn't that a horse? I think it is a horse. The only thing that makes sense with Starmer, that he has been bought by the Chinese, in my opinion. What do you guys think? It says Rock Family. Explains the China trip. Well, I don't think he's been bought by the Chinese, but he does seem... He loves everyone who's not British, doesn't he?
Well, this is it. We have a Prime Minister who puts foreign interests over British interests, but more crucially, who puts far-left ideology, you know, the ideology of post-colonialism and decolonisation. That's what's behind giving Chagos to Mauritius. This is all about post-colonialism, guilt over the empire. You've had his best friend, the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, a man who absolutely hates this country, advising every single enemy of the state, even consulting with the Caribbean over reparations. And of course, now you actually have countries like Argentina saying, well, we would never have countenanced negotiating for the Falklands under any other government, but now potentially we have the ability to do that. You know, we have to remind David Lammy, being Foreign Secretary doesn't mean you put foreign interests first. You're Britain's Foreign Secretary.
I know, absolutely right. AT says, we've had enough of watching the establishment destroy our communities and then call us racist for pointing it out. Britain is waking up. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Absolutely right. We've got a massive show. Rafe Heidelmanku, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning and kicking us off with all of that very, very interesting constitutional information about what the hell is happening with the royal family in this country. Kelvin Mackenzie is going to join us very shortly. Robert Jobson, Sunday Times best-selling royal author, is going to be joining us too. Will Geddes will bring us what's going on with the Royal Protection Squad types as well. Plus, there's all sorts of other things going on. I've got to take the mickey out of Darren Jones as well, who seems to think that it's a good idea to tell us all how to save money. He's, of course, in the government as well. Keep your messages coming in. Let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Oh joy, another glorious day in Blighty. Top story, former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because titles are so last century, was arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Something deliciously vague about sharing secrets with his old pal, Jeffrey Epstein, back when he was playing trade envoy. He got the full VIP police station experience in Norfolk, then released under investigation, looking like a man who just discovered accountability exists. The King helpfully commented that the law must take its course. How noble. Front pages are loving it. Downfall. Taxi for Andy. Haunted, haggard photos everywhere. Truly the monarchy's shining moment. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's having a fabulous week too. More U-turns. His own party wants him gone. and now Epstein-adjacent drama thanks to a dodgy ambassador pick. And internationally, Starmer's bravely told Trump no on using UK bases to bomb Iran, because nothing says leadership like politely declining World War III invitations. Truly, what a time to be alive. God save whatever this is. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Yes, we're back. This is the Mike Graham Show, of course. As you can see behind me, actually it's over there, we've got the international clock and we've also got the London time as well, which is 7:35. Thank you to Will Geddes for pointing that out. Kelvin Mackenzie's in the house. Very good morning to you, sir.
Morning.
I mean, what is going on, Kelvin? I mean, you were editor of the Sun newspaper for many, many years. And
during a successful time.
During a very successful time.
As distinct from today.
But also during a very kind of what you might describe as rocky time for the royal family,
Yeah.
during the whole Diana years
Yeah.
and all of that. This is incredible, isn't it? I mean, despite all of the things that you've seen before,
Yeah.
is this the biggest royal crisis, do you think, that's ever been in our lifetime?
Oh yeah. No, yes. The idea that you're sitting there watching the Snow Olympics, and the next thing that they say they have to make it. Actually, a relative of mine then texted me saying I am not interested. I am interested in the curling. I couldn't give a damn about Andrew. And I thought, right,
Yeah.
well, there's another low. So this has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
How long ago was it the Mail on Sunday ran that picture of Andrew with his arm around...
With Virginia Giuffre, yeah.
Right.
Years, right?
Right. So here's the rub for the royal family. When his brother and his mother saw that picture,
Yeah.
right, how did they feel about his protestations up to that moment?
Right.
And what did they do about it?
Yes.
Did they say to him, look, you need to explain this? And was that the reason that he ended up making that disastrous judgment of appearing on Newsnight?
Yeah.
Or did he, as a friend of mine suggested, actually he did it to put his mother's mind at rest? He was saying to his mother, you have supported me, you believe me, now I am going to go on television and I'm going to explain the same stuff that I explained to you.
Right.
What she didn't know, what he knew, and now what the public knew is he was lying
Yeah.
his head off.
Yeah.
And
So do you suspect that he told his mother that it was a fake picture then?
it's
wasn't
a
real?
fake picture. None
Yeah.
of this is true, mother. She being mum, right? She's mum, right? She loved him, right? And it's said that she loved him more than she loved the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Right, well, when you look at Charles and Edward, there wasn't much of a race anyway, was there? Right, so she loved him. And so he did it for her.
Right.
But of course, he probably knew that she wasn't too well.
Right.
And that by the time the truth came out, she would be gone.
But meanwhile, he also asked her for money, did he not?
So this is where there is a distinct problem, I think, for Charles.
Yeah.
And why I believe, probably uniquely, and against your royal expert who was sitting here, I believe that he will stand down.
I agree with you. I think he will be forced into doing that because otherwise the alternative is that he has to answer a load of questions that he won't want to answer.
Okay, so question number one, the 12 million is paid out.
Yeah.
The Queen ponies up 7.
Right.
The Phillips estate, Prince Philip's estate, regardless of what he wanted to do with the money, he puts up 3.
Right.
Right. And 1.5 is put up by members of the royal family.
Yeah.
Charles has said that wasn't my 1.5.
He's denied it, hasn't he? He's denied that he was
my
involved in
1.5. Well, who on earth's 1.5 was it? Who was it? Was it, for instance, did it come from Fergie? I wouldn't have thought
Unlikely.
so. She hasn't got 1.5 pennies.
No.
Right? Did it come from who? Edward? Did he cough up?
Possibly. Possibly.
Well, who did cough up then?
But it wouldn't be William because he doesn't like Andrew, does
Or
he?
for instance, no, it's definitely not William. Or for instance, when he said, I didn't put up the money, says Charles, could he have gone to his bank and said, you put the money in
Yeah.
and I'll stand behind the loan?
Yeah.
Right? So there are still questions to be asked there. And the unfairness of asking those questions and the unfairness of the position he's in is, A, he's 78. He's got cancer. His daughter-in-law has cancer or has had cancer. And a very serious, I mean, those pictures of Kate last year, I mean, I felt very uneasy about what was going to happen to her. So when you have pressure on you, so a mutual friend of ours has got cancer at the moment. He says to me, I don't like meeting people that remind me of difficult times.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, that because I fear it will be unhelpful towards me getting better.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether the same can be said of Charles. Is it fair that he is going to receive a whole load of investigations? And there's always going to be some Burke in a crowd who's going to shout out, "Oi, Charles! Hey, what did you know? And when did you know it?"
Yeah.
Right? So,
and yesterday it was journalists who were shouting questions at him, wasn't it?
well, yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
over to you. Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I agree. So there are difficulties.
Yes.
And
also, is it not possible to conclude that if, in fact, he was involved in, even if he didn't pass over any of his own money, but he was involved in the kind of the coercion, if you like, of other members of the royal family to put money towards the cover-up, which is what it really is, where you're basically paying somebody off to prevent a criminal prosecution, right?
Under a system we don't really have.
Isn't that a conspiracy of some kind or another?
No, I don't think that's the case. But I do agree with you. I mean, you couldn't have had a deal like that through the High Court.
No.
Right? Or I don't think you could. Although I suppose if it's a private deal and it doesn't go through the courts and it just is.
I suppose it could be a settlement out of court.
Settlement out of court in which no side admits anything, which is the case here. But look at Andrew. Regardless about whether. Okay, so here's the problem for the cops.
Yeah.
They must have the goods already, and the reason I say that is the idea that they haven't got the goods, and this was basically a fishing exercise, which is sometimes what arrest is, right? What a scandal that would be. That if over the weeks, months, and years, for instance, I knew a guy who was arrested over some kind of finance fraud, right? He was under arrest one way or another for nearly 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, they agreed that that no further action was.
Well, look at all the journalists who were arrested at The Sun, who were on bail for something like 2-3 years, weren't they? Unable to do anything.
I don't think. Well, if they would be making a huge error here, and an even bigger error was if he was then charged, right, and then he was found not guilty.
Right.
I have read pieces today which suggest it's very hard for the particular charge that he is likely to face for arrest, for conviction. But supposing he was then cleared.
Yeah.
Right? So I am working on the assumption that they say we have enough right now, and therefore anything else we get. The other thing is, what a laugh this will be. I mean, don't even think about it. This will be a Netflix drama within about 20 minutes. So he's in a interview room in quite a small station, about 30 miles
in Norfolk, in the middle of nowhere, right?
In the middle of nowhere, right? He's in there like that. He's sitting there like that. So remember, you've got to imagine this is a Netflix drama.
Yeah.
You've got all the lights like you have in this studio, and you have this, that, and the other, and everyone's sitting around like that. And I would imagine it was probably, I don't know, what would you think, an inspector?
Yes.
Or a chief inspector?
It would have to be a fairly high
chief inspector,
level, wouldn't it?
Right, doing with other people looking through the glass, right? They're looking through the glass. And they're asking Andrew, said, Andrew, Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, we have evidence here that suggests that you did X, Y, and Z. What is your reaction to that? No comment.
Yeah.
And he says, for 8 hours, as you're told when you're interviewed by the old Bill, he says, 8 hours, what a fantastic piece of television that would make.
It would, absolutely. Because
And-
we were told in various different, nobody really knows for sure, but the suggestion was that he had a lawyer with him. So he would have to his right, the counsel who would be saying, I advise you not to answer that
One
question.
of those guys was supposed to be a guy called Mr. Good News, wasn't he?
Is that right?
Yeah. So they called him Mr. Good News because every time Andrew said, "Do you think I'm in any trouble here?" and he would say, "Don't worry, Your Highness. Nothing will come of this."
Right.
Clock forward 5 years. Oi, you bloody idiot!
Right.
What am I doing here?
Well, he obviously didn't think of any of that. I mean, it was a great piece. I sent you this yesterday. I don't know how long ago this ran, but it was a few years
Private
ago.
Eye
It's
piece.
from
Yeah.
Private Eye,
Yeah.
right? The appointment of Andrew to replace the Duke of Kent as trade envoy was vigorously promoted by none other than Peter Mandelson, then out of government after his second cabinet resignations, but still with the ear of Prime Minister Tony Blair. Blair overruled the principal opponent of the plan, who was none other than Andrew's big brother, Charles, who thought it wrong-headed as he suspected Andrew would use the post as an excuse to cultivate friendships with the wealthy, chase women and play golf. I mean, how prescient does that turn out to be?
No, that's
exactly what he did.
That item would have been 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So the idea, more than 25 years ago, so it would be prior to year 2000, okay? So 27 years ago. The idea that Charles is now turning around, I hadn't got the vaguest idea.
Yeah.
And yet he was a guy who was campaigning. That was by the way, what a great job being trade envoy is. Let's get this right.
Yeah.
Playing golf,
Yeah.
sucking up to rich people and chasing women.
Yeah.
The queue for that job,
Right.
is about... Who does that job now? We ought to go and have a check on him.
I know. I mean, presumably Mandelson would be applying for it because, he
Well, he
quite
wouldn't be
fancies-
chasing women.
He wouldn't
though,
be
would
chasing women.
Chasing
but-
blokes.
Yeah, he's chasing ladyboys down in Bangkok, or whatever. Sorry.
Can
We can say that on these shows, here, because this is the new frontier of journalism, right? I got this from somebody called Coroner saying, "Stop saying Norfolk's in the middle of nowhere. We live here." I'm not saying Norfolk's in the middle
It's
of
the
nowhere.
capital of nowhere.
Yeah.
And actually, what was funny about being banished to Sandringham, have you ever been to Sandringham?
No.
There is, okay, right, because you've got kind of a London-centric...
Do you know I've never been to Norfolk at all? I don't think.
well, you haven't missed much. I better be careful about that.
You can't alienate an entire county. Thanks, Kelvin.
My stepdaughter lives in Norwich, and she sent me a text yesterday saying, he said, I would like Andrew to get out of Norfolk. So what we need to do today, perhaps you would like to send in some text on that, is where you would like to send Prince Andrew.
Yes.
Because it's a disgrace. But Sandringham is completely surrounded by grass.
Yes.
Right? If you like grass,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you like farmland, this is your place.
Yeah.
There is nothing in Sandringham except this estate. And
Well, I was reading yesterday about the various previous kind of members of the royal family and their brushes with the law, and almost all of them seem to be about driving. And you might remember the Prince Philip episode where he turned over his Land Rover when he was pulling out of Sandringham and sort of hit somebody because he'd forgotten to look the other way. And then he was also done for not wearing a seatbelt. And all of their previous kind of, run-ins with the cops seemed to be for speeding.
yeah, well, no, there's one, wasn't there? It was Princess Anne. Was
Oh, the
fined-
dangerous dogs one.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was that wasn't Princess Anne, wasn't the dangerous dog. It
No.
was she had a dangerous dog. She was fined 500 quid, wasn't
Yeah.
she?
She was, yeah. And I
Well,
think...
okay. Well, there's one other important, and this is why it would have been useful actually to have had your royal expert here. I think, because what about William?
Yeah.
There is a suggestion. William's what? He's 40 odd, isn't he? Just
He must be 45-ish,
40,
something like
yeah,
that.
40ish. That he actually doesn't want to be king.
Really?
Right. And when you look at Kate, right, who was a fantastic advocate for the royal family,
Yes.
wasn't she? I mean, really.
In many ways, sort of saved them in a way,
Correct.
Yeah.
Then she had her massive health issue, and when you looked at Kate sometime last year, compared to the Kate that you had seen a year or two before,
Yeah.
you really worried, and she and her family and William are clearly worried about, how is she? She is so thin. So their priorities may well have changed. They may have said, we're a family.
Yeah.
First of all, we're a family,
Right.
right? And secondly, we're a member of the royal family.
Yes.
Okay? And so there's some suggestion that William doesn't want to be in that.
Right, okay.
Doesn't want to be in that job. Or if he does want that job, he wants it when Dad goes,
Right.
10 years' time. So although I could see a situation where Charles calls it a day, actually says, I don't want any more of this. This is too much. And we should allow young with clean hands come forward. What would happen if William said, I'm so sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Actually, I've spoken to Kate. We as a family don't want the pressure of being the face of the UK, because they are the eternal face of the UK.
Yes.
Whereas you get some idiot like Starmer comes along, or actually, I'll be honest with you, not my own politics at all, but you get a Boris Johnson come along. It turns out to be good at all that and terrible. So who is the eternal face of our country, right? And that is one of the good things about the royal family. It's, as people say, it's an old one. That would you really want a President Heseltine or President Prescott?
No.
Or what about a President Starmer?
Or Blair.
Or President Blair? Yeah,
I mean, he would love it. He'd love that job. I mean, in fact, he would quite happily become king if you asked him.
He'd turn us into Gaza.
He would, absolutely right. But this is the thing. I mean, we're going to talk to Robert Jobson, Sunday Times best-selling author, coming up shortly. He's in the Sun today saying remove Andrew from the line of succession, which Brave said it can't be done. But after William, it goes to his kids, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and then Bleeding Harry.
Yes, well,
how about Harry as the face of Britain? And Meghan. Harry, let's get the private jet out. Let's go. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, that would be fantastic, and that would then lead probably to a change in the country in which they become so the minor royals aren't paid for anyway. What about the children?
Yeah.
What about Fergie and Andrew's children?
Yeah. Beatrice and Eugenie.
Yeah. What on earth is going to happen to them?
I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she said that she ran into one of them at Davos. I don't know what they do at Davos, but apparently they swan around.
But they're there to lower the intellect.
Presumably, yeah. I mean, she actually said that she seemed like quite a pleasant girl, but anyway, that's another story.
I hear because I have, I know this may come as a shock to you, another stepdaughter who went to the same school as one of them did.
Right.
And said, perfectly lovely, perfectly lovely. But the reality now is, okay, so you've got the DNA from one of Fergie, one of the greatest grifters of all time.
Yes.
Right. For 15 years, she'd been on the Epstein payroll.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the other aspect of Fergie is she described when the Guthrie allegation was first made, she described, I can't be silenced while I'm surrounded by these salacious lies.
Oh, dear.
Right? Okay. 5 minutes later, when it all starts going the other way, she thinks it's in her interest to describe Epstein as a paedophile. And he then complains about it. She then stops saying this.
She apologises, right?
Yeah. So, and said, I'm very sorry. I was forced to do it by the media. She's gone, nobody's seen her since, I think, last September.
No, she disappeared.
Okay, she's disappeared. So she's obviously somewhere abroad somewhere. And one of her children, I know, gave an interview, which I didn't really believe, but we said effectively that she was putting her mum on the back burner, having nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got the blood from one of the great grifters, you've got this bloke over here who's prepared, allegedly, to give out secrets to a paedophile who can use them for financial gain somewhere. You have to worry about your own blood, don't you?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
And what about the blokes who? What about the blokes who married the daughters, who thought that they were joining some?
Yeah, one of them's an Italian count, isn't he?
Yeah. Well,
sorry, be careful how you say that.
Close.
Listen, we've got another guest we've got to talk to. Catherine McBride, OBE, is here. Free market economist. Catherine, a very good morning to you. Sorry to keep you waiting. Will you be handing your OBE back now as a result of the revelations of the last couple of days?
No, I got my OBE from Princess Anne. Oh, sorry. I'm not on mute. Can you not hear me?
What's that?
I don't know.
It's
Can we try again? Do you want to try again? I'm hearing an echo again for some reason.
well,
Catherine,
Can you
just
hear
carry on talking and we'll hopefully be able to pick you up.
okay. I got my OBE from Princess Anne, and she's the
should we come
only
back
good
to
one.
it?
We'll come back to her.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all a bit of a mess, isn't it, really? Arthur Edwards writing in The Sun, Elizabeth would weep on this dark day for the royals, and a lovely picture of Queen Elizabeth holding baby Andrew in 1960 at Balmoral. I think because of the age that we are, you know, it seems to me that the royal family now has become severely sort of watered down and denuded, and it's nothing like what it used to be, even back in the days. I mean, let's talk a bit about the Diana years, because that was a fabulously kind of dangerous time for the royal family, because Diana basically went into the family, as you know better than anyone, and kind of started hollowing it out, didn't she? Because suddenly things started appearing in newspapers. She was giving interviews. I remember Piers Morgan saying that he used to talk to her on a regular basis, and then she would sort of deny saying anything to him.
Yes,
but she was undermining the whole authority of Charles and of the whole family.
Yes, but that was I mean, lots of families would have seen that in much smaller ways,
Yeah.
which would have been basically divorce battles,
Yeah.
being conducted in her case through the media, which used to aggravate the living shit out of old Charles.
Right.
And
he was busy briefing people that she was nuts, right? And
Yeah.
that she was throwing herself down the stairs every
Well,
5
no,
minutes.
Murdoch said to me about his first wife that she was nuts.
Right.
I mean, this is normally what you say about your...
Yeah, I think I may have said it about my first wife, actually.
And my wives have certainly said it about me. What I'm worried about is that Leslie says it about me. And so
Well, listen, I mean, if more than 3 of them say it, then it must be true, right? I mean, that's the general, that's the general rule.
Yeah, it's what the divorce lawyers rule, a triple nutter. Yes, so Diana was a fantastic thing. If you were in the tabloid business, right?
Amazing.
So I'm some kind of genius, you know,
Right.
4 million a day, it's all going rather well.
Yeah.
And the way it worked was this: absolutely nothing was happening that day.
Right.
But there was a great picture of Diana at some first night somewhere like that.
Right.
Bang that on the front,
Yeah.
and boom, the sale went up.
It was incredible.
Absolute,
Yeah.
total genius I was. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that I noticed that the guest, which we seem to have lost for the time being,
Yeah.
had got an MBE. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it MBE or OBE?
OBE.
yeah.
Got an OBE. Well, do you know what? I'm very surprised for the thing that what I have done for the media has not been rewarded in a similar way.
Yes.
And
Well,
I sometimes write to Charles.
Yeah.
Indicating that that there is still time before
Yes.
he shuffles.
Do you not
off.
have to be nominated by somebody for it?
I was nominating myself.
Yes.
I had a good look round.
Right.
I asked colleagues, and nobody was prepared to do it.
Yeah. That's like a bit like Stig Abel, the guy on Times Radio, who had a good look round when they decided to start Times Radio up to see who they could get to host the breakfast show, and he decided there wasn't anybody else better than him, so he gave the job to himself.
Yes, I was told that Mr. Abel had a double first. I think I know what it was for, actually.
Yeah, I do too. Anyway, that's enough of that sort of talk. We'll get ourselves into terrible trouble. But do you remember then there was talk of people like Will Carling being smuggled into to the palace to have a sort of night of dinner.
Give credit to Mr. Carling. There's a lot of gossip about all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And actually, he's never said one single word.
Never has,
he?
no.
So I rather tip my hat to him. Yes, no, she had she seemed to have a great interest in various different types of chaps.
Yes.
And I rather saluted her for that. I mean, she's a modern woman. If she wants to, she wants to go.
No,
I thought.
she
wants to go with the doctor over here. She wants to go with the sports star over there. She wants to go. Well, why not?
No, indeed.
Perhaps why not was because she was actually married to the next king of England.
But the thing is, some of it happened, I suppose, after she left him, but she really kind of took them apart piece by piece in quite a forensic way, I think,
Right.
because questions started to be asked that were never asked before, because she was posing them.
Right. So what emerges in this conversation is that the nation was divided between pro Dianas and anti Dianas.
Yeah.
And I think most men had a rather closed-eyed view of it. And actually, I was astonished to find that there were a lot of women who actually seemed to get quite aerated about her actions.
I didn't like what she was doing.
Didn't like what
Yeah.
she was doing.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we really focus, honestly, Mike, on Fergie? I mean, I can't, for the life of me, work out. Her entire life has been basically quite... So here's the rub. She goes away for 6 months, hides out with a ghost, and writes her book, and decides to tell the lot, i.e. to reveal herself.
Yeah.
That would be a book.
And she might well do that because she'll need the money.
She's skinned, right?
And she doesn't have any money, and Epstein's not around anymore, and Andrew clearly can't help her because he can't help himself at the moment, can he?
So how is Andrew going to live?
Well-
because if you want a decent KC, you want decent lawyers and
Yeah.
all of that shit, the brother's not going to fund you anymore.
He can't.
There's probably not a lot. He's probably cleaned out quite a lot of the royal family's coffers anyway, and yet, you know, you get some KC turning up. He said, "I'll do it." For you.
£250,000 easy, right?
Yeah, easily. And he said, to be honest with you, I'm a little unsure about your mental state, and I'm a bit unsure about your bank balance.
Yeah.
So I'd like it up front if you don't mind.
And that's the other thing, right? Because supposedly, according to the piece that was in the Times the other day, he borrowed all this money, whether it was from the royal family coffers, you know, to pay.
Oh, what, he's to pay it back?
No, and he's meant to pay it back, and he hasn't paid any of it back, apparently. So he clearly doesn't have any money.
Well, although I did notice that they were putting in, I think, Sky into that. Well, they call it a cottage. Most of us would call it a mansion in Sandringham, and I wonder whether Sky might say, "Well, you've failed our financial tests on this, and we are concerned who is going to be paying it when you get to 5 or 7 years."
Yes.
Who is?
And we're not going to give it to you for free. I'll tell you a terrible story about Sky, right? This is from Mark Wogan again. You know, when Terry Wogan passed away.
Yeah.
Do you know what Sky did? Because they gave him a free subscription because he was on TV.
Yeah.
They wrote to his widow and said, "Terribly sorry, but now that Terry's no longer with us,
Yeah, and
we're
there's of no use to it.
and there's no use. I'm afraid you're going to have to pay up." So they actually started billing her for the Sky subscription, which had been free while Terry Wogan was alive.
Yeah. Are you getting a bit weak or something? What is wrong with that? I am running Sky. I have no idea why Terry Wogan.
Well, why would he get it free in the first
Terry
place?
Wogan received a free, a free one anyway?
Yeah, right.
And certainly if he's gone, he's of no use to it. I presume they gave him free one, so he would say on his radio show, "I was watching a very good show on Sky."
Yeah.
Well, you can't say that anymore anyway, can
No.
you? Because if you, one of the great things that has happened with streaming is that everybody has a favourite.
Yeah.
I don't know whether all you guys are watching Tehran on Apple. It is beyond doubt the greatest single piece of drama streaming I have seen.
Is it?
With the exception possibly of Homeland in the first series.
Okay.
But Tehran is beyond fantastic.
Is it?
And what's fantastic about it is it paints the Iranians in a shocking light and paints the Israelis in a very good light.
Okay.
It's fantastically done, by the way. Fantastic.
Did you ever watch Fowder? Because that was also
Fowler
very
was great,
good.
right?
Yeah.
But do you know who's making the show?
No.
About Israel looking great and Iran looking poor?
Yeah.
Israelis, right?
There's a funny thing.
No, but the detail on it, the acting on it, the drama of it all is beyond fantastic. So with my free Apple streaming license that I've taken over from the Wogan family. No, that's not true, actually. I urge you, get out and watch it. If you're not watching it already, get out
Well,
now.
how many of these streaming services do you pay for, though? Because you can get Apple for 3 months for free, can't you, if you buy a new phone or something like that? I mean, and we're always kind of moving around so that you don't have... Because at one point, when I was feeling relatively flush, you'd have like 6 different streaming services.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, we're not having all of those. You know, you can have one. Netflix, or you can have Prime. You can't have Disney. You can't have bleeding Apple.
That is true.
You know.
But then somebody...
Otherwise, you're spending £100 a month.
Correct. But then some Bert like me says that there is something fantastic on it.
Yeah.
You must watch Tehran.
Okay.
It is
I will.
It is the best.
I will.
So, so you end up buying that or getting 3 months free under if you get a new phone or something like that.
I've just got a message from the mother of my children who says, we've watched it. I don't remember. I mean, this is what happens when you get old, right? I don't remember watching it. Particularly if it was on a Saturday night when we've had a couple of glasses of
Your
sherbet.
partner,
Right.
your partner.
She's not my partner, she's the mother of my children. And she's very, very clear about this.
Right. Okay. Well, back to the studio. The mother of your children.
Right.
Do you say you've watched Tehran and can't remember it?
Yes.
Okay. Was that when you were in the grip of the grape?
Could have been. Yeah.
Could it be that you were lying there like this, going, "What's all this? What's all this Iranian rubbish doing on?"
I thought I'd seen Fowder already. Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, you do. I mean, my son.
So she has just texted you. To inform
to say we've watched it.
I tell you what, there must be something still there. Why would she be watching a show of somebody that she is no longer with?
Well, it's not. Well, it's a curious situation, really. But I mean, it's what works, you know. So it's
I congratulate her. I've never met the lady, or I don't think I have.
Yeah, you have.
Oh, have I? Was she in Tehran?
She wasn't in Tehran, but she came to one of your parties once, right?
Oh, did she?
And you introduced yourself to her by saying, "This man here," pointing to me, "is the greatest liar I've ever met." To which she agreed. You know,
it must have been a good party.
It was a good party, yeah. It was I remember that. I just don't remember watching Tehran.
I find that. Do you know what? Can I be honest with you? I don't want to say that you're the mother of your children is wrong. I think it's difficult. How long ago? What was it? Last year or something?
What, when we watched it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Must have been.
I'm astonished. Anyway, the fact you can't remember it is a shocking indication of your current bloody amnesia and Alzheimer's.
It is. But, you know, listen, I've only got a few years left. I mean, you're a bit older than me, and if I get to your age...
That is not true.
If I get to your age, you may well be, but if I get to your age, you know, I'm as lucid as you are, I should be very grateful.
Okay. Well,
you know.
yes, well, that's what Leslie said. I'm very grateful if you're a bit more
Now, I'm
lucid.
told we've got to do a promo for Plank of the Week, which we filmed yesterday. You'll have to come on that, actually.
Yeah, I will do. I'll probably be the plank.
Because, funnily enough, just before we started filming it, the news broke that Andrew had been arrested. So have a look at this.
But the 66th birthday, now, come on, guys. I mean, we probably can't remember any of our birthdays since we were 12.
Yeah.
I think for this individual, his 66th birthday will become quite memorable as 6 vehicles drove onto Sandringham to pick up Andrew Windsor Mountbatten, Mountbatten Windsor, to take him off for, I think, probably for some interesting questioning, maybe.
Yes, he's been arrested, basically, and held on suspicion of misconduct in public office. That would appear to be what they're investigating. And, of course, his home, as you say, was raided in Sandringham. Meanwhile, later on today, and we're talking Thursday, the King apparently is about to appear at London Fashion Week.
As one of the
mannequins, yeah. But he might be asked a couple of questions, I suppose, which he won't answer.
Oh, he won't. He'll bat those off.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a wry smile, you know, as he bats them off.
Yeah, but it's an extraordinary event, isn't it? Because we're basically looking at somebody, and I don't know if this is true, but I certainly can't think of any member of a royal family that's been arrested by the police before. Can you?
No, that's not since
unless you go back to the Plantagenets or something.
Some of them got their heads chopped off. That's a bit much. Andrew has not exactly been a shining ambassador for this country in recent times.
No.
And as you said, this is about his apparently prima facie misdeeds as an ambassador for British industry. There's all the other stuff which we're not getting into, but he basically lied in an interview about all kinds of stuff. But this is really about giving information to people who shouldn't have been getting it.
Yeah.
People he wasn't theoretically even in touch with anymore.
That's Lembit Opik, Will Geddes and myself on Plank of the Week. Also Intel Ladies on it. That goes out tonight at 7 o'clock. We're having a few technical difficulties today, Kelvin.
That's good.
To explain,
That's good. Well, all it shows is that we're a startup.
We are.
And therefore things go wrong, and actually the audience actually prefer things going wrong because that's what their own sad lives look like.
It's true. And also the funny thing is that when things do go wrong here, it's always something different. You know, like, so for this morning, for some reason, we're having a few problems with the audio, which is going to mean that we can't hear the guests, which is going to cause us a couple of problems.
Actually, it'd probably improve the output if we can't hear it.
Actually, it might do, yeah. How about this? Mike, your departure from talk was the best thing that could have happened to you. Loving the show, all the guests, and the don't give a shit attitude, and you look so much healthier. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Yeah.
That is
Yes.
true.
There might be tell everyone there might be 10 seconds of silence.
Yeah.
Stare at the screen. I'm going to restart something.
All right,
Okay.
so Pooch is going to try and restart. Pooch has got to leave as well, just to
Yeah.
make things
Yeah.
even more complicated, right? He's
gotta go
leaving
to the funeral.
He's leaving at our funeral. You go to. Charlotte's here though, so she's manning the decks very very manfully, womanly, I should say. Right, so you're gonna try and restart it, are you?
So just stare at the
Yeah.
screen.
So just well, should I not talk or just?
They won't hear you.
They won't be able to hear me. Well, if I keep moving my lips, they'll just
I'm doing it
pretend.
now.
So,
That's a good
right.
idea. Let's go. Why don't we hire those people who only get work occasionally?
Yeah.
Who do
Oh, the sign language. thing,
sign
yeah.
language?
Philip Kisley. Is Philip there? Let's see if he's there.
See if it works. Sorry.
Right, this is all
This is
this is all good stuff. This, isn't it? Philip, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. Can you hear me?
No,
They can
Oh.
hear you,
Yeah,
we can't.
the audience.
so the audience can hear you, but we can't. I think that's part of the problem.
That
Here.
might cause a few problems.
Right, one. We're going to try one more time.
We're going to try plugging it in.
See, now I can hear it in
Delay.
delay, which is weird.
Right.
So that's not going to work, is it?
Again, Philip.
Try again, Philip. One more time.
Hi, Mike. Can you hear me?
No,
Oh,
it's so frustrating
yeah.
because, like I say, this is not something we've had before.
There's always something, isn't there?
It's weird. Very weird. So if I was to play Darren Jones, for example, I wouldn't be able to hear that either.
No, you won't be able to hear it, but everyone would be able to hear it. You play it?
Yeah, let's play Darren Jones because I remember what he said. I don't know if you've seen. Maybe I'll just play it
Yeah, go on.
to myself.
What did he say?
I'll just play it to myself, and then we can listen to it here. Can we? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Hang on.
So this is really important. We know each month we have to pay for our bills, right? The money you get in from your wages and the cost of your electricity, your home, your food, and all of those types of things. And in an ideal world, you'll have spare money left at the end of each month. The good news is that this definition of real wages, how much you get to buy with how much money you earn every month, has been increasing, and you see the number going up through the time that this government has been in power. Now, there's more to do, because we know that for many families, they're still not feeling that gap yet between how much you have coming in and how much you've got going out. But this is a good start, and there's more to come.
Right? So that's Darren Jones, right, telling everybody how to help make ends meet, right? Now, I thought, because he talks about how hard it is to, you know, in this day and age to keep yourself floating with your head above the water and all that. So I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll have a look and see what Darren Jones claimed on his expenses last year.
Oh, right. That's very cunning of you.
Yeah, well, do you know, I always like looking at MPs' expenses because it gives you an indication of just how hypocritical they are.
Yeah.
And starting from 2024 to 2025, he claimed £46,599 in accommodation, right? He also claimed £1,000 on dependent travel, which I presume is one of his members of his family. On miscellaneous, which is a good one because you never know what that's for, £6,631. MP travel, that's himself, £5,869. Office costs, £26,789.
Yeah, decent to spend.
Staff travel, £1,000. And my favourite, staffing for his office, £239,000, 903. £239,903. So this guy's spending in excess of about 325,000 quid of taxpayers' money to run a job for which he's already paid around about 120 grand. And he's got the cheek to tell us how we should be living.
Yes, I would have thought that was a dangerous video. I have no idea why he would have thought it was in his interest to start explaining people. Why he thought it was in his interest to explain to people how to save money and to run their budgets. On the basis that he was running a part of a cabinet that was running the biggest gap between revenues and expense.
Borrowing about 20 billion a month, right?
Right. And so we don't need any help. We do need help. I totally agree. Some people do need help. But the person to supply that help is not a Darren Jones figure.
No, and Darren Jones has only ever worked in public sector sort of areas. So he's never run a business. He's never had to do what you and I have done, which is to look at the bank balance at the end of the month and go well, this is not going to work. Let's just shut it down before I lose my shirt, you know.
Or actually, even worse than that, face people chasing you for money armed with monkey,
when you have to park the car round the corner, you mean that sort of thing.
Yeah, no. So of course, he is the number one Starmer Brown nose, isn't he?
He is.
He has now been put basically into the cabinet to explain why everything is going wrong, rather than the Prime Minister having to do it every 5 minutes. And what the Prime Minister likes doing is jumping on a plane, going somewhere else where people don't know he's a fraud, don't know he's hopeless, and don't know, actually, they probably have a pretty good idea that he's running the country into the ground. And he leaves Darren Jones to explain why it is that the entire economy is going backwards, and his claim to fame is that he came from the office of Rachel Reeves, which is where he started talking absolute cobblers. You know, we're going to try Philip Kisley again one more time. Let's see if we can do it. Philip, let's try again. Can we hear you?
Yeah, can you hear me now, Mike?
No. Crikey. Never mind talking absolute cobblers. You know.
What was Philip going to talk about?
Well, I was going to ask him about the Royals, really. But we should also talk a bit about the US and Starmer's refusal, apparently, to let the USA use British bases to fly planes into Iran, just in case they want to drop some bombs on them. Seems to me that there's been a couple of American senators who are asking questions about how on earth is this happening? Why are Britain not offering us help? What is going on?
I think it's a very good point. So of the many nations in the world which cause other nations problems, Iran is right up there with Russia.
Yes.
There's a pretty good argument for us one day going to war with Russia. I quite understand that. They want to go to war with us. They want to attack the whole of Europe. We're going to have to do something about that. Iran has been funding every single militia in the Middle East in order to bring down various...
Right. And they've tried to sort of surround Israel, haven't they? Basically.
And in fact, the whole thing is completely blown up. Okay. So they have turned out to be useless. But it doesn't stop them attacking their own people, killing their own people by the thousand, and also even killing women who who decide they don't want to cover their
heads
head with a scarf. They are a vile lot, and they do it all in the name of religion.
Yeah.
Right. So is this the real reason why Starmer, a dreadful coward under most circumstances, is not being prepared to allow America to use our base?
That's a good point, actually, because he's frightened of the backlash here.
He's frightened of the sheer backlash within the UK. Now, and why is he frightened of it right now? Because in the by-election at Denton, 30% of the constituents are Muslims. And does he think, as I believe anyway, that the Muslims are all going to vote Green and that they are going to win it? Well, I do absolutely assure it. Write this down, keep the video, right? Labour finish third or fourth. So either the Greens win it, which is what I think will happen, or Reform will win it, but Labour are nowhere. And that is what is going to happen on a regular basis. Because if it turns out that the Muslims, by moving their vote, actually do get the Greens elected, you can imagine how Labour will be feeling on the run-up to the election.
To the local
all right,
elections,
it's 3 years away.
But then they got local elections in between as well, where they'd also get slaughtered.
They're
right?
going to get slaughtered there. This is going to be. I'm never going to have so much fun.
Right.
I have never ever stayed up for the council elections. Now I'm getting the popcorn in. We're getting. If I were a drinker, I'd be getting that lot in.
Yeah.
But there is slaughter heading their way.
Yeah.
But the guide will be. So the by-elections next Thursday.
Yeah.
So it's a big one. Labour have stopped talking about it. In a funny way, they're hoping that something happens. They would have liked there to have been this arrest, not yesterday,
Yeah.
but next Thursday for
Mind
Friday.
you, on any given day, they're happy for any sort of coverage of something other than what they're doing, because the Chagos story this week has been horrendous for them. And then, funnily enough, one of the reasons why apparently Starmer is upset with Donald Trump, of course, is because Trump has said, stop the Chagos deal. You don't do it. You don't give it away, because we now want to keep our hands on it, and we don't want Diego Garcia to fall into Chinese hands.
Have you noticed that suddenly our government, why is this? It's because we've got, quotes, human rights lawyers, unquotes, whatever they are, by the way. It's a way of getting paid. It's a bit like saying, I'm a legal plumber. Right.
Did you see that guy, his other mate, who's been making a fortune
Made
representing
8 million.
Mauritius? A pot of money worth something like 8.4 million quid, which he's been sucking in for years.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a great gravy train, all this, and I presume Starmer will be hoping that he rejoins the gravy chain in a while. So he doesn't want to signal that he wants to bomb the hell out of Iran. Most people in the world, they're not just a pest. Iran. If they got a nuclear bomb,
which they were well on the way to getting, by the way.
I am Israel.
Yeah.
I am saying this is us over.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Israel are never going to allow it.
No.
Trump says I'm never going to allow it. Actually, even Starmer says it is not right that they should have it.
Right.
But the difference between Israel and America and Starmer is that they want to do something about it.
Yes, exactly.
And and what I can't understand is, what difference does it make when it comes to law and war? Right? International law
Doesn't matter.
Right. What law is Iran facing by funding Hezbollah, funding...
Well, exactly. That's what
funding
Rafe was saying earlier when he was in. He said, that none of those laws really apply. They didn't apply to Tony Blair when he decided to go into Iraq. They didn't apply to the UK or America when they decided to bomb Libya. Or indeed when we decided to bomb Syria a few weeks ago. But the thing that I find most insidious about all of this is that the lefties, who are all about free Palestine and marching around waving banners and carrying watermelons and all that, they actually have sympathy for Iran.
Hold on a second.
Because
what do you mean by carrying watermelons?
Well, the watermelon is a symbol of Palestine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
actually.
because it's coloured red, green and white. So if you see, for example, these old tossers Jew hunting up in Sheffield, I don't know if you saw that video over the weekend.
No.
These are people knocking on the door, asking if you're going to boycott Israeli goods, and then taking down your details to see whether you are pro or anti-Israel. So effectively...
How do you mean taking down your details?
Well, because they're knocking on doors in Sheffield, right? Yeah. Asking people if they agree with the boycott of Israel and Israeli goods. Right. And depending on how you answer, they take down the details of the house, i.e. there's somebody living in this house who is pro-Israel, or there's somebody living in this house who's pro-Palestine, and they're literally keeping records of it. Right?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, why does anybody answer them? Why don't they tell them to piss off?
Well, I think I would tell them to piss off if they knocked on my door. Yeah. But you don't expect people knocking your door in this day and age, do you?
No, you don't.
But what I'm saying is that one of the old guys was wearing a hat that looked sort of like a watermelon, because people get watermelon tattoos because they can pretend that it's nothing to do with Palestine, but it's a sort of secret symbol of Palestine because it's red, white, and green. Yeah, and that's their flag, right? So these people, though, are not only about free Palestine. They actually like the Iranian...
got a cucumber on his backside. Has that got anything to do with it?
No, I think that's the same thing. No, there's nothing to do with Palestine at all.
Right.
It's free something else, which you normally pay for. But they actually celebrate the Iranian regime, as ghastly and horrible as it is, killing innocent women and kids and hanging people from trains.
I totally buy that.
Right? But they love Iran because they bankroll Hamas.
Yeah.
And that's now considered to be a genuinely normal belief, which is horrendous.
Which is the amazing thing. I have no idea how many innocent people were shot dead literally by machine guns.
Yeah.
But we say it's either 6,000 or 7,000 or it's 30,000.
Yes.
It's a huge,
It's a big number. Yeah.
What did you hear from the Muslim activists
Nothing.
in our country?
Nothing.
Right. Nobody says, because actually they prefer the idea of a Muslim theocracy, administration, Islamic Islamic dictatorship, to not having one. The one thing they don't like, actually, strangely, is democracy. And in fact, they work very hard to try and make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right.
I mean, you get extraordinary things like Tower Hamlets, don't you? Where a guy gets banned from running Tower Hamlets because he some kind of a voting issue, right? He gets banned for 6 years, and wallop, when the 6 years is up, he comes back again, and he's running the joint.
Yeah.
I wonder how they view democracy. Do they view democracy as anything we do in the name of Islam is fine, and anything anybody else does, actually, we must act against?
And anybody who supports anything to do with Israel is immediately the enemy.
Yeah.
Right? And that is appalling, absolutely appalling. The other thing about Tower Hamlets is that they've got these amazing properties there where you can open a door into a flat which only has one bedroom in it, and there's 50,000 people registered to vote there. It's amazing.
That right?
It's extraordinary,
It's
It's quite a good little ruse, and nobody's ever done stories on it because everyone's frightened to say it. And I mean, it might be a slight exaggeration, but you know, there's clearly something going on in some of those areas.
Well, let's ask your audience, those of you who are Muslims, to text in, because we'd like to have a different way of doing it, but it's probably it's either.
Well, they'd have to do it on the YouTube chat actually.
Yeah,
at the moment,
okay,
because
we'll
we
do it
haven't
on the
got a text
YouTube
line.
chat.
Yeah.
And explain where we're wrong, and perhaps you'd like to explain to me why it is there hasn't been a greater outpouring of feelings towards those families that have died in Iran from the Muslim community. Are they scared to say anything?
Yeah.
Or do they actually not give a damn?
Yeah. I think it's somewhere in between the two. Now, apparently, Charlotte's here. Will Geddes has just arrived as well. Hey, Will. We've got a bit of an audio problem talking to live guests. So Robert Jobson, who we were hoping to interview, royal author, of course, a Sunday Times bestseller, we don't think we can talk to him today. So apologies, Robert, if you're watching. I'll send you a message as well. But what we can do is play clips. So I've got another clip to play you. And this one is even weirder than the last one, right? This is Zach Polanski. Who did a sort of party political broadcast yesterday from what looks like Fred West's living room. Now, I know that people will say that's probably in poor taste.
No,
but, you know,
that is your strong suit.
Enough time has gone by, I think, that we can say these things. But check this out, right? I'm going to play it. I'll play it to you here, but you can watch it out there. Ready?
Look, I get it. We all hate party broadcasts. We just want to watch Corrie or whatever's on next. But I just want to take a moment to ask you to remember something the government want you to forget. They want you to forget that right now we are living in rip-off Britain. There was a time when bills weren't just going up and up and up, and our public services actually worked. That what's happening right now, it's not normal. It's not extreme or obscene to ask for something better. We're paying for it after all. But right now they're getting exactly what they want, which is for you to think that change is not possible, that it has to be this way. But it does not have to be this way. Billionaires own far too many of our politicians. And every day, we're seeing how far that rot goes. People at the heart of government leaking secrets. And a Labour government that is crumbling. But we've got Nigel Farage. He's trying to paint reform as some sort of alternative. But reform and Labour both accept money from oil and gas companies, arms trade companies, private healthcare and gambling companies. That means they work for them and not you. But the Green Party, we're offering hope and a plan. We're going to take back what's ours from the people who have taken what's ours. Because for decades now, they have been making a killing from selling it back to us. We need to end rip-off Britain. 1, we're going to lower bills. By ending shareholder profits, we can bring water companies back into public hands. 2, defend our National Health Service. Millions of pounds going to private healthcare. Imagine if we put that money actually into our NHS. And 3rd, let's reinvest in our communities. All this talk about kids hanging out on the streets. But where have all the youth centres gone? Imagine being a young person, told we can't afford a decent future for you, in the 6th largest economy in the world. Where's all that money gone? I will tell you. It's gone to the rich people who just happen to be mates with the people in power. How about we say we can't afford that? How about we stop selling our kids' futures down the river? That's why we need a wealth tax. Not on hairdressers or on plumbers or on people just trying to get by, but on multimillionaires or billionaires. So as you get back to your programs, please just remember this. We're not just making hope normal again together. It's already here. It's all of us. Enjoy Corrie or whatever you're watching.
And that's Zach Polanski there talking about how hard it is, right? This is a guy who wants to bring in a wealth tax. He hasn't really made it clear how wealthy you have to be before you start paying it. And he hasn't said how much tax you'd have to pay. Yeah. But, you know, the green agenda now that he is, you know, championing and is getting... Oh, look, Robert Jobson's ringing me. Hang on. Yeah. Oh, no, I just cancelled it. Hang on. Hello?
God's sake, man.
Robert. Hello, Robert.
I just thought I'd do the old way.
Yeah, you're actually live on the show now because so just be careful what you say.
No, don't be careful.
Don't be careful what you say. I've got Kelvin McKenzie to my left here. We're sorry about this sort of slight problem with the audio, but we can't. If you come in through our normal system, we can't hear you. But can you hear Robert? Okay, Charlotte. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that we can hear.
Yes,
so I can hear you.
Yeah, that works. All right,
Yeah,
so
okay,
here we go. So we can now talk to Robert Jobson, who is, of course, Sunday Times best-selling royal author and old friend of ours from so many years ago, I don't want to care to remember.
No, he's worn well, though, hasn't he?
He has worn very well. So, Robert, listen, you got a big piece in the Sun today saying that, you know, Andrew must now be removed from the succession list. We had Rafe Heidel-Manku on earlier who said that he didn't agree with that, and he said you can't just remove him because if you start doing stuff like that, suddenly the people in the Commonwealth will start wanting to remove the whole bleeding lot of them.
Well, all I can say is I'm glad that Kelvin's not the editor of the Sun and I'm working with him at the moment. It'll be hell on earth at this moment.
Yeah, quite right too. It was for your own good, though.
Well, I don't know about that. But I would say that that's the sort of nonsense that we've got to stop dealing with. You know, the fact is, when Princess Diana died, they couldn't lower the flag to half-mast and change that. They've got to stop quoting protocol letters, adapt it to the times, become a more transparent and open and honest institution. That's the reality. They've got to use this moment. You know, and I know no one's been charged yet, but he is a proven liar, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, where he's called. The fact is, at this moment in time, they've got to become more open, and all this stuff about protocol, acts of Parliament, just make him abdicate his position for the line of succession, and anyone who's not a working royal should come out of the line of succession as well. We don't need a massive long list. You know, that is the reality of the situation. You can't start talking about things because it was done like that many years ago. I know that Charles, when he came in, he wanted to make loads of changes, but, you know, he's been completely hampered by his cancer, you know, and I feel a degree of sympathy for him. But this has been going on for 16 odd years. In that time, somebody should have done something. And in that time, hush money of around £12 million was paid to a woman that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor said he didn't even know.
Yeah. And the question really now is, and we've been asking it this morning, both of us, is what effect does this have on Charles? Because he must have known a lot more than he's telling. He must have understood that that was basically hush money, whether he had anything to do with raising it or giving any of his own money to Andrew. You know, regardless of that, you know, he must know stuff about Andrew that we don't know, which puts him in a very difficult position, doesn't it?
Well, undoubtedly, he got to know quite a lot quite recently because that's when he started acting very decisively. But prior to that, there was no decisive action. I do know that around about 2010, when the appointment was going on of Andrew, under the Blair government and with the Queen's blessing, that as the Prince of Wales, he was very much against it, said he wasn't qualified, said he was a disaster waiting for that to happen. but he never had the top job. So he was overruled by the Queen, who was blindsided by her favourite son, blinded by the love of him, and obviously lied to as well. So, but that being lied to is no excuse. There's not the checks and balances in place in the institution to avoid situations like this happening. And because there's so, the Official Secrets Act, not only that, you've got they don't answer on the Freedom of Information Act. That sort of protection that they have. We'll find out all about this in 50 years' time when we're all dead. But the fact is, the point of it is that with having so much protection, they become complacent. And such complacency is what's led to this issue.
And in terms of, the Andrew kind of legacy now, that picture, which is on the front pages today, a photographer friend of mine said that picture's got to be worth about £500,000 to whoever took it, right? If it was a freelancer.
Noble took it of Reuters. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Used to be a child actor, a great actor.
Oh, is that right? I knew you'd probably know him. But that is going to be the forever sort of legacy of Andrew, isn't it? That picture will be the one picture that will haunt him for the rest of his time.
Yeah, it could get worse though, right? It'll be the one of him being escorted out of the courtroom.
Oh, God.
This is serious stuff for the monarchy now. It's no good them saying hiding behind tradition, say ho hum, we carry on. I heard back from some of the other days said, oh well, it's rather busy here at the moment. You're playing it all down. I hear what the King's saying about getting on with the job and doing our duty. And monarchy really, essentially, as a parliamentary democracy, a constitutional monarchy, is just about the monarch really. And this is the extended royal family. In 1917, George V had to get rid of all the hangers on. He changed the name of the company, if you like, from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, because it was German, to Windsor. And I think there's going to have to be something as seismic as that going on. Maybe on Prince William's watch, I don't know. But they do need to change the way the system is done, and they do need to bring it into the 21st century.
Can I ask you, Andrew, there's a suggestion that actually William actually doesn't want to be king, actually, because of everything that's happened to Kate, because they say, well, actually, we are a family ourselves. The royal family is like a commercial entity for the country, but we need to focus on our children and we need to focus on Kate. What do you say to that?
Well, I say there's no doubt that he wants to put his family first, and that he has a different attitude to the way he does his duty to his father, who actually has and always has been a bit of a workaholic. Well, I think that he will do his duty, but he's been through a roller coaster himself with the announcement of his wife's cancer and his father's cancer. So I'm sure he's sat long into the night and looks at what Harry has managed to achieve in a big house in California, doing his life, having his own life, and must be thinking, why has it all been left to me? But no, I think he'll do the job and he'll do his duty. I think he has that in him. But it's whether the monarchy is an unelected institution. The bottom line is it's intrinsically linked with everything to do with our country, from the courts to the church to the army. But so it's very difficult to separate it. I know we've got a Labour MP calling for a referendum on the monarchy today, with the fellow up in Leeds East. But that's one thing. And Albanese was asked in Australia, should we be having a referendum? And he said, look, amazing to how far he's fallen, Andrew, but we're not very good at referendums in Australia, so we're not going to have one. So I think that there's a lot to go on here. But the problem is, an unelected institution like this has to have the trust of the people. And if it doesn't have the trust of the people, and the people like William doesn't want to do it, I think he does, but if he doesn't have that same desire, then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah. But isn't the truth about the matter that we have lost trust in all institutions, right? I mean, if you take, I would bet every penny I've got that there will be a massive change in government in 2029, and another massive one in 2034, and another one in 2039. We are into a world mainly caused by social media and the enfranchisement of ordinary people, that everybody has a different view about almost everything these days. And actually the royal family is just the same. And within it, there is one bad apple, right? A very, very bad apple. Yeah. That surely shouldn't be enough to blow up the whole monarchy.
But you're absolutely right, because the world has changed in the media too. It's almost like, in the past, go back to the application. You know, Beaverbrook and Rothermere, they a silent deal was done, and they didn't even write about Wallace Simpson. You know, and then in days gone on, with the exception of Kelvin, you know, friendly editors would get a whisper, and things that the foot would be taken off the accelerator on certain scandals. These things happen because it was for the greater good. You know, there's the 4 pillars of the establishment, and the media is one of them. But that is so different now because it's viral. Everything, it's almost like a count. You know, it keeps going and going and going, and it develops. You can't just switch it off. And younger people aren't interested in it, not even reading papers half the time. They're just, their attention span is they want action now, and they want to have their say. When I told my 24-year-old son that Andrew had been arrested, he was disappointed. He said, well, no, not over the sex stuff, not over the trafficking. That's appalling, you know. So they want to know. They're very demanding, the younger generation, and you can't just, you know, there's no control in the media because the media has its own. It sort of just has a voice of its own. It just keeps going and going. And so they won't know where this is. And yeah, we've got a lack of trust in institutions. I mean, people will now say, well, what's happening with Mandelson? What's happening with Starmer? Why won't Starmer go? Actually, Starmer hanging on the way he did was probably, you know, helpful to the established order because what have they got to replace it with at the moment? So this is a problem that we've got because it's a good thing if a democratic, open society, but it does mean institutions are fragile.
Absolutely right. Listen, Robert, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. That's a slightly unorthodox method of interviewing you on the phone. But listen, thank you.
We should do it again next week, though, shouldn't we? So
we should.
Where we can properly have a look at, find out how really ugly you are.
Well, I mean, you know, and indeed he can see us as well. Listen, great to see you. Robert, thank you very much indeed. Sunday Times best-selling author there, coming on in a slightly unusual way. Some very funny messages coming through on the chat. People saying, I can hear it great. Other people saying, put it on the speaker. It's on the bloody speaker. That's what we already had it on, for heaven's sake. This show is well funny, says Purple Rain. Other people go, no, I can't handle it anymore. It's a glitch too far. We're doing what we can, right? For some reason, then they were saying they could hear the people before, but we couldn't, and now they can't hear us. But yeah,
well, this could be a new form of television.
It is,
right?
Well,
a new form of
people enjoy the glitches. Honestly,
yeah. Well, who was that misery who said that they did ban that person?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
you're banned.
Yeah, you're banned. Kelvin loves banning people. You used to ban people from buying the Sun, didn't you?
I did, yeah, and it worked bloody well. Every time I banned somebody, the sale went up.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, I've got a little bit of an announcement to make as well, because coming up on Wednesday, the 6th of May, which is a little way off, but don't worry, the Shepherd's Bush Empire is a very fine venue where I will be performing live.
Oh, good.
Mike Graham and Friends, it's called, The Real Home of Common Sense, including special guest Lewis MacLeod, who's a great impressionist. He does a fantastic Donald Trump impression. In fact, he went viral doing it. There's the poster there. Also coming up, the Right Said Fred, who were on the show yesterday. They're going to come along as well.
Are they still going?
No, they are still going. Well, do you know what they told me yesterday when they were here? They said, I said, so how are you getting on? Because they were kind of cancelled for being too right-wing. They're not allowed on the BBC anymore. The BBC won't put them on, right?
Was it too right, said Fred? Then?
Too right, says Fred.
Hey,
yeah, or as somebody said yesterday, far right, said Fred. But apparently, one of the things that's absolutely saved their bacon is that Taylor Swift sampled one of their songs.
What, Too Sexy for My Shirt?
I don't know if it was that one or another one, but basically they get so much money now from the Taylor Swift sales because they're credited as co-writers that they don't have to worry about anything. So they're absolutely in clover. You know, and they still tour and they still do shows. They do a lot of shows in like continental Europe because they love them in Germany and they love them in France. They were in Japan recently.
What age are they then?
I guess they'd be in their 60s maybe.
Right.
50s or 60s. But
they're still doing it.
But they're still doing it, yeah. Which is brilliant, you know.
Do you know what? I've always wanted to do a documentary on the families of one-hit wonders.
Yes.
And how they make one song, which turns out, for instance, Spotify now show that it's the old stuff, which is all going like that. Because you can make any form of music now through AI and the like, and so you don't need to actually create anything. No. You can create it on the hoof. And so the documentary was about how they continue to live on the money
on the
trickles
residuals
through, that carries on coming through. So if anybody's got any money and they want me to make that documentary, I'm happy to do it. Otherwise,
Excellent.
they can just send me the money and I'll
Not bother making
leg
it.
it.
Yeah, just leg it. Yeah. So
leg
back
it.
to the Mike Graham and Friends show. It's May the 6th, Wednesday.
Oh,
Tickets
right.
are now on sale at Ticketmaster.
How much are they, the tickets?
I think they're about 40 quid.
Not worth it.
But,
Don't bother.
It's a very, very good show.
No, I don't think so.
And of
I
course,
know Mike Graham.
It was originally scheduled to be performed back in November.
Right.
But there was a bit of an issue in November.
Why? What happened in November?
I got fired.
No. Well, I tell you what, I've been fired as well.
Yeah.
How many times have you been fired?
5.
5. I'm just trying to work out. I was fired from The Sun,
Yeah.
Mail,
Yeah.
Telegraph.
Yeah.
Who else?
How about Sky?
No, I walked out of Sky.
Okay.
Right. Walked out of Sky.
Shortly before they fired you.
Shortly before. Well, when you go to punch the chief executive of a publicly quoted company,
Yeah.
that is a moment when you've got to really reflect on whether this working practice can continue.
Yes.
No, you've been fired 5 times.
5 times, yeah. I got fired first time from the Star magazine in America.
What was that for?
I crashed a car,
Fine.
and it turned out I didn't have the right visa or anything, so they had to pay for the car because
you shouldn't have been in the country
I
at all.
I shouldn't have been working for them, because
Oh, right.
I didn't have the right. I had an I visa, which meant I could work as a foreign journalist, but not for an American
I see, you were
magazine.
working for, yeah.
So they had to let me go. The next time I got fired was from the Express,
Oh,
and
really?
I came
Why?
back for not being a woman. Because Rosie Boycott became the new editor.
How do you mean?
Well, I was night editor at the time, and for those who don't know, that means sort of head of production, right?
Yeah.
And Lord Hollick had just bought the newspaper.
Oh, right.
And he'd installed and decided to make it a Labour paper, Labour supporting paper for Tony Blair.
Well, he decided to take the Daily Express and make it Labour.
Yeah.
What an idiot
I
that
know.
bloke is.
Well, do you know what was amazing, right? There was one, I'll tell you this story. It was one day I was actually working as foreign editor. They got a new editor in called Richard Addis, who had been appointed by Lord Stevens, who was the chairman, right?
Yeah.
Because Mrs. Lord Stevens had met him at dinner and thought he was terribly clever. And Richard Addis, very nice bloke, but he didn't have a clue about. He used to call me the news thug. Didn't know anything about news,
Can
right?
I just ask you this?
Yeah.
Let's just go back to the idea that the Daily Express, which had been pro-Tory, pro-Commonwealth,
all of its life.
pro-farmers, all its life. A new owner come along and said, I've got a good idea.
Yes.
We will now piss off our entire
But this is
audience.
because he was part of the
He
new
was.
Labour
He
project,
was,
right?
yeah.
So what happened was they placed him in there, basically. So he buys it, right? So Addis was on the phone on the back bench, and I was at that point running the foreign desk. He's taken dictation from Lord Stevens for a leader to say, vote Tory, basically, a couple of days before the election. And Hollick, who's now the new kind of boss, rings up and I answer the phone. Who's that? It's Clive Hollick. Oh, hello, Clive, how are you? Can I speak to Richard? I said, no, he's on the phone. I said, what is it? He said, I'd like to dictate a leader. I said, oh, right. I said, well, you dictate it to me then. So he dictates a leader to me, saying, vote Labour, right? So I go over to the Addis when it's finished, and I said to him, I said, Lord Hollick's just been on the phone. He said, oh, what did he want? I said, he's just dictated me this leader. And he went, oh. He said, I've just taken a leader from Lord Stevens to back the Tories. He said, what should we do? I said, well, if I were you, I'd go with Hollick. And so we did. And that was the end of the Express supporting the Tory party. So that was good. Then I got fired from the Mirror.
Yeah, well, quite right. Too.
Because
quite right. They should never have employed somebody like you.
Because Piers Morgan got fired, and I was kind of one of his henchmen, so I got swept out.
Was that after Piers?
About a year after Piers went, yeah. And then
do you know that was a shocking exercise? That woman was a total creep. That lady, I think, for throwing him out.
Yeah.
Not because she perfectly entitled to fire whoever she liked. She was the chief executive. But they basically threw him out without his jacket.
They did.
They marched him out of the bloody room.
Right.
I really could not understand that.
No, I know. And they also tried to take his car keys. And he went, hang on, it's my car. And he's had an Aston Martin. And the guy on the door was going, give us your car keys. He's like, no, it's mine. I'm taking it home.
So the editor of the Daily Mirror was driving an Aston Martin.
He was.
Right. Do you think he'd read his paper? I'm surprised he hadn't been shot by the Star.
Well, indeed. So then where did we get to? And then I went to... then I went to Scotland, went to Talk 107, the first... in fact, you bought it, didn't you? Mm-hmm. You bought that station when you were running
that
Talk
was
Sport.
another disastrous idea.
Well, I managed to lose £5 million of the radio company's money And I got fired from there because basically I was just too expensive, and the whole episode.
No, you were
was-
fired for your inadequacy and
Yeah.
ineptitude.
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely right. I did manage to get the radars up though, which was one of the things that I managed to do. And then finally fired from Talk. Back in November, it's number 5.
Oh, well, that's well done. Well
Thank you
done.
very much indeed.
Right, you should ask your audience how many times they've been fired, because I suspect that watching two blokes who've been fired 10 times between them is probably not a sign that they should be watching this show.
Possibly not, but now it's impossible to fire me because I run the company.
Well, a very good point, which is the point I made to Piers.
Yeah.
I said, Piers, start your own business.
Yeah.
And he said, why is that? I said, because you can't walk out of your own business
true.
without going bust.
It's true.
And actually, the world of the media is in this venture, i.e., what's happening is that big media companies are really suffering. They're laying people off. They're not doing well.
And they can't afford to pay people either now.
They can't afford, there's no advertising.
I mean, I was getting paid a ludicrous amount of money at Talk, and I mean, it wasn't in any way sustainable.
Our colleagues that are still there getting paid ludicrous amounts of money?
Not as much as they were.
Okay. Well, I mean, somebody like your old colleague Kevin O'Sullivan, who probably shouldn't be being paid at all.
No, well, he doesn't get much, to be fair.
Does he not?
No, he doesn't get
Well,
much.
what do you reckon he's on?
A couple of £100 a show.
No, but the truth about the matter is, when you say he's on not much money, actually, to your audience, if you were to say how much Kevin is on, and we'll guess. Do you remember just recently I got sent a screenshot showing what his audience was on YouTube.
Oh
As you
yeah,
could
that's
tell
right.
that
It's
at any one
34,
time.
wasn't it?
And it turned out to be 34.
Right.
And so I put this on. I helpfully put it on my X account.
That's good of you.
Because I felt it needed a wider discussion. 34 is not a number which you should necessarily keep
It's a
to
good number
yourself.
for a bus.
Anyway, I then get a text from him as it filters through that he's got a rather bigger audience on Twitter than he had on Talk, and he got very quite aerated with me, shouting and hollering about ruining his chances of staying on the Drive show.
Yes, we do love him really, but
very nice guy. Kevin.
He is. We've
Very
known him a
nice.
long time.
Yeah,
very long
I'm not
time.
inviting him to my birthday party, but I do like him.
Yes, excellent. Well, I'll make sure he knows that.
No.
So what are we doing, by the way? We seem to be... What are we doing?
News.
Oh, it's 22 minutes late for the news.
I wouldn't bother with the
Let's
news.
get the news with Edward Hughes. What has he got?
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Oh joy, another glorious day in Blighty. Top story, former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because titles are so last century, was arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Something deliciously vague about sharing secrets with his old pal, Jeffrey Epstein, back when he was playing trade envoy. He got the full VIP police station experience in Norfolk, then released under investigation, looking like a man who just discovered accountability exists. The king helpfully commented that the law must take its course. How noble. Front pages are loving it. Downfall. Taxi for Andy. Haunted, haggard photos everywhere. Truly the monarchy's shining moment. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's having a fabulous week too. More U-turns. His own party wants him gone. And now, Epstein-adjacent drama thanks to a dodgy ambassador pick. And internationally, Starmer's bravely told Trump no on using UK bases to bomb Iran, because nothing says leadership like politely declining World War III invitations. Truly, what a time to be alive. God save, whatever this is. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
I've got this from Valerie. Richard is 72, Fred is 62. That's the Right Said Fred guys. So I guess they're a bit older than I thought. Kelvin is very, very funny, it says here.
Right, good.
So he is. Lewis McLeod of the Clan McLeod, yes. As I said, we'll be giving you more info on that show at Shepherd's Empire, Wednesday, 6th of May. But you can get tickets now on Ticketmaster, so have a look. and don't be a plank, as it says on the poster. Will Geddes is here.
Good morning, sir.
Now you were here yesterday, right? This time around
We had
this
a
time
crystal ball, didn't we?
around this time yesterday with the crystal ball, because somehow it was funny because you and I spoke earlier on in the week, and I, because of the way that we sort of have known the newspaper business for such a long time, and Kelvin would be the same. I could see that there was something kind of moving, and I said to you, "Why don't you come in and let's talk about Andrew, because you know the Royal Protection Squad's involved.
Yeah.
You know some of those guys. You know, what are they going to be telling the police? Are they going to be quizzed by the cops? How exactly is it going on?"
Interesting morning yesterday.
Literally half an hour after we finished,
Yeah.
you know, suddenly Andrew's arrested,
Absolutely.
carted off to the local cop shop.
Yeah.
He was held for about 11 and a half hours or so, let out last night. That ridiculous picture of him all over every single front page this morning.
Yeah, that's a man reckoning with his life, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
The
It's an
question
interesting
now,
one.
I suppose, is
Yeah.
back to the Royal Protection Squad guys.
Yeah.
Presumably they'll be being interviewed over the course of the next few days.
Yeah, they will do. I mean, obviously what's happened is he got carted off to the police station first thing in the morning. His PPOs probably didn't even know about this. I think someone in the palace knew about it, because ultimately there was that fantastic photography of all the cars turning up, the Range Rovers turning up to pick up Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
Formerly known as Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
And then
Now
ultimately
known
he was
as the Perp, as they call him in America.
Yes, the Puppy Prince.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's happened now is he's had his properties searched. He will have had all his devices taken off him. They will be looking through for any other evidence that they can work with. And he is now into this hideous holding pattern, which anybody who's been through this process will know is where he's been released, but will be brought back for interview. And this could take anything up to 2 years.
Really?
It could. It really could. So they're going to go through all this evidence. So although it's conduct in office unbecoming of a former prince.
Misconduct in public office, which we're told, though, is quite a difficult charge to make
It
stick.
is. It's a bit like a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. It's a difficult one. It has a very, very high penalty attached to it, potentially.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's a difficult one to prove. But having got all his devices now, this is where
So will
he's
they
going
have
to come
everything?
unstuck. Yes.
Well, they've taken all his computers.
Everything.
They'll have taken his hard drives.
Yeah.
They'll have taken his phones, all of that. And
Yeah.
I mean,
and
if
as
you're-
you know, a forensic process can be very quick, but when the police do it, it takes an awfully long time.
Well, quite. And also, presumably, he will be under some kind of order not to do certain things. Will he be told he can't leave the country?
Yes.
Will he be told that, you know, he can't, I don't know.
I mean, I think one of the reasons why they did it yesterday morning was that there's speculation that I've heard, and murmurs and rumours, that he might have been a flight risk. So he may have tried to take off, and this is why they went in there. Initially, my thoughts were they coordinated that pickup, because sometimes it does, and it's a lot easier to actually just come in, pick him up, leave a search team, and ultimately cart him away. But I think they did this by surprise.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Well, they didn't even tell the king, did they? Supposedly they told the Home Office that they were doing it.
Yeah.
Why would they have done that?
Well, they would have let them know, obviously, because they have to follow the protocols and the procedures to ensure that, obviously, the warrants are going to stick in terms of going onto a royal property and be able to actually pick up a former prince, you know, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And just want to make sure it's all done by the book, because this is the procedural side of things, which they're going to have to do very, very carefully to make sure that they have sufficient for the CPS to be able to review, to then decide whether this goes ahead. Now, the big question, Mike, certainly in these fast-moving times, is how long this is going to take.
Yeah.
What other stories are going to take precedence? How much will he disappear into the background?
Yeah.
And I think in most cases that probably could happen, and it just evaporates from everybody's consciousness.
Because a lot of people are also asking the question about the other kind of aspect of the case, which is the trafficking side of things.
Yes.
Which at the moment hasn't been mentioned.
No.
Would that be a separate investigation, or are they looking? Because I mean, for example, Essex Police are looking into the landings at Stansted, aren't they?
Yes.
And who was on those planes?
Yeah.
And, you know exactly what happened when they got here.
Yeah.
So that's not part of this, as far as we can see.
It's not part of this. This is, if you like, the gateway to pulling him away for questioning and interrogation, if you like. But that could be part of multiple charges that could be levelled against him.
Yes.
So I'm no lawyer, Mike, but
You do know some lawyers, though.
I know a few.
As we know.
Yeah, as we know. Yeah, I know one or two.
Yeah.
So I've, as you and I both know, I won't obviously mention it on air, I was looking after an incredibly prominent person who got arrested.
Yeah.
They were asked to come in for interview at a police station, and it was supposed to be just for a voluntary interview.
Yeah.
The moment they crossed the threshold, they were arrested and charged. So after that, I know certainly what happens is you're pretty much housebound.
Does that mean then, would you say, if not that, I don't know who would be asked to do this if you're watching and listening to this show today, if the police invite you to come into the police station, should you not go?
No, I think you should go. I mean, again, you should take advice from your lawyer.
Right.
Again, you know, I think we've got to be responsible about this. But I think anything that you do to not be compliant is not going to work for you in the longer term.
Yeah.
So, for a good example, in that particular case, which was highly publicised, so if any of the people scouring out there will, if they put my name in and if they knew who the person was, then it would come up pretty quick.
Yeah.
We were, you know, I was actually overseas when I received a call from the Met who said, and I was responsible for the personal protection. And they said, were you working on this project?
Yeah.
And I said, who's calling?
Yeah.
And they said to the Metropolitan Police. And
Oh,
I went,
yeah.
oh, how are you?
Yes. Yeah.
So again, you know, I told my team to be incredibly compliant and assist, obviously, the authorities in terms of being helpful, because there was no wrongdoing on our part, and that came out in the wash ultimately anyway.
Yeah.
So the PPOs, the personal protection officers, the PROC officers, the RASP guys looking after Andrew right now, will be continuing their duties, but they know they're going to be under a greater degree of scrutiny.
Presumably he doesn't
right
really
now.
have much protection now. Doesn't he go anywhere? I mean, he gets on a horse, doesn't he? Or he gets
doesn't
in a
now,
car.
Mike.
No,
that's
but
for
I mean,
sure.
even when he was in Windsor, he wasn't really going out of the complex of Windsor Castle, was he? I mean, he was in the Royal Lodge, and he would get in a car and he would drive around the estate.
Or go out on his horsey.
And go out on his horse and ride around the estate. But you don't need much protection for that, do you?
Or
do you
still need to have it there, still need to have it around. It was scaled down hugely when he obviously lost his royal duties. But certainly the biggest concern, I would have thought, for Charles and the royal household, the king right now, is going to be the reputational management from this time forward. So one of the things that I would be advising if I was in the inner circle there would be to say to Andrew, don't be going out on your horsey and looking as though that you haven't got to carry.
In fact,
the
you might
world.
want to sell the horse, actually, because you're not going to have much money and you're going to need to pay some lawyers.
Yeah, very right. And we know how expensive lawyers can be,
We
don't
certainly do,
You know?
much to my chagrin. What about Fergie? Because Kelvin was saying, you know, what are the chances that she, because she's, I presume, without royal protection now, I don't know, she's disappeared, she's somewhere in the world, you know, probably staying at somebody's house who's helping her out. What if she suddenly decides to write a book or suddenly give her side of the story? She'll also presumably be being sought by the police at some point or other to find out what her role in all of this was. She went to Epstein's Island quite a lot, took her kids there, right? When they were a bit older. So, you know, she's quite a big player in all of this, isn't she?
Yeah, I think because she's going to be a collaborator, and she'll certainly be culpable of certain elements, whether that be facilitation, whether that be support of Andrew, or whether that be concealing criminal acts. You know, there could be a number of possible allegations that could be levelled against her. I mean, certainly, from what I know on the inside track, she's been dropped pretty much from her patronage of all the charities that she was being involved in. So she's been, you know, and many of those charities, for obvious reasons, have distanced themselves from her. So we know the pair of them like a bit of money, and I think they're going to be certainly squeezing right now. I do feel a bit sorry for the daughters.
Yes.
I've met both of them, albeit very briefly. They seemed very nice young women. But I think everybody needs to keep very low profile.
It's not their fault who their parents are, but I mean, you know, I guess conceivably, if Fergie is abroad and she decides not to come back to the UK, what's the legal position then?
Well, she would be requested to come back, and I would say it would be in her best interests to return. So if, say, she's in the UAE, which I would probably think would be a good place to basically lay low. I'm sure she's got
money though, doesn't it? Unless she's got some very wealthy friends.
I think she'll have some wealthy friends who will be helping her out. That's for sure. Or one would hope that she does, or not, depending on your perspective. But I think, someone like that, she would lay low. If the authorities, if the police call up and say come back, she should get on a plane and return and cooperate with the authorities.
Face the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if she's likely to be charged with something.
Even if she is, because even if she knows that she's going to be charged with something, if she resists or continues to remain absent, then extradition agreements will be starting to be created.
Although that's why a lot of people go into Dubai.
Call someone like me to go get her.
I was going to say, I mean, that's why a lot of people move to Dubai though, because there's no extradition back to the UK.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bad people there.
Oh yes,
right?
indeed. There are. Yes.
I mean, I was there in May.
And I'm not
last
talking
year.
about Emiratis. I'm talking about the foreigners.
Oh no, I'm talking about the Russians.
Yeah.
The drug dealers. The arms dealers. I mean, there are some people there with cars that I've never seen before. I remember standing outside the hotel I was staying at, which was quite a nice one, and people turning up in Maybachs and souped up Cadillac Escalades and Bentleys, Rolls Royces, just incredible wealth.
Yes.
But then the guy getting out of the car looks like you wouldn't want to meet him on a dark night.
Yeah, it's undeterminable
wearing a
wealth,
t-shirt,
isn't it?
Yes, and it's it's like it is like I say, like the Wild West in many ways.
It is, and I mean, I've certainly been involved in a number of frauds which have originated out of Westerners who have been in or used that as a safe haven to operate out of. So it's an interesting location. I've got some very good friends over there who are running similar entities to myself, and let's say they're not shy of business.
No, indeed. Right. So next couple of days, what happens over the weekend?
I don't think a great deal is going to happen right now. I think the powder's going to be kept dry by the authorities whilst they're gathering all their intelligence and all their evidence as much as they possibly can. So whether that be hard copy or digital, they're going to be sifting through all that. So it's now the waiting game for Andrew to determine when he's going to be called back. There's a number of factors which could work in his favour. King Charles could come to his aid, and that could potentially release him from this. But I doubt King Charles is going to do it. And I think reputationally, it would be a terrible move on his part. I think there's a massive spotlight on the royal family and the integrity of it. And right now, the black sheep of the family is currently under the sharpest part and focal point of this spotlight. I think the more they distance themselves, the better.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Will, good to see you again. Thank you very much indeed. I suspect we'll be getting you back in fairly soon. Joe says this: who remembers Fergie getting a mention by Chubby Brown in his song Dolly Parton's Tits? No, I don't remember that at all, actually. We're going to do Plonk of the Week coming up in a bit. Chris Walkie's here. He says he remembers it as well. There's a joke doing the rounds about Fergie as well.
Yeah.
What's Manchester United, the Black Eyed Peas and Andrew got in common? All went to crap when Fergie left. Which is one of Charlotte's, actually, which is quite good.
I'm loving all the memes that are going out. My inbox is being absolutely deluged with them on Andrew. It's very funny.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, I think it's time. We're going to talk to Anna McGovern coming up very shortly. Who's going to talk to us a bit about the Royals and a bit about women's safety as well. Presumably, well, I better not say that now. Anyway, let's do Plank of the Day, shall we? This is great.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.
Now, I'm going to play you, of course, I'm going to play a clip that I won't be able to hear, will I? But everyone else will be able to hear it. And this is, again, from the Winter Olympics. Whenever we play anything from the Winter Olympics, we usually get told it's copyrighted, but I don't think this one is. This was yesterday, and a giant mountain goat was seen clambering up the skis. I think it's either the ski slope or the downhill snowboarding competition section. Have a look.
Oh, it's not a goat.
Amazing.
But the reason this is
Get it off before the next jumper.
because of course the goat's
Just
great.
walking up.
There's a woman you can hear in the background.
Look at his hooves, man. They're built for this. Going all the way.
I'm assuming I'm able to be heard, right? She says, "Isn't it amazing that he doesn't slip?" And you go, "He's a mountain goat. Of course he's not going to bleeding well slip, you stupid woman." Right? So she's the plank of the day.
Brilliant.
Some American woman who's obviously never seen anything like this and thinks that, the mountain goat would be slipping and sliding all over the mountain.
Yeah.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.
Because we've had the dog, we've got the goat. I think we should basically have a wildlife Winter Olympics.
It's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe the dog's chasing someone. Put Andrew out there. Put Andrew being chased by a pack of wild dogs. Be brilliant. Absolutely. Now, the other thing is we were talking about Keir Starmer earlier and how ridiculously he's viewed in this country and how unpopular he is, right? And now, apparently, the Americans have started to figure out just how unpopular he is. This is how CNN were reporting on Starmer just yesterday.
These numbers are absolutely atrocious. I mean, you never see numbers like this in the United States, Americans. Britons who like Keir Starmer, look at this. Overall, it's just 1 in 5. It's just 1 in 5. It's 20%. His own party, Labour, he's just at 52% there. I've even seen numbers with satisfaction of him in the teens. This is actually higher than the lowest number. We're talking just about 20%. You know, we always talk about Donald Trump being unpopular in this country, but Donald Trump looks downright like Abraham Lincoln compared to Keir Starmer's numbers at this point.
Well, translate this into American then.
Okay, let's translate this into American. Okay, I think of presidents, I think of leaders of this country who had low approval ratings, and I think of Richard Nixon. Okay, popularity ratings in their own country. In 1974, Richard Nixon, just before he was forced to resign, 24%. But look at Starmer. He's actually lower. He's lower at 20%. He is polling worse now than Richard Nixon was with Americans before he was forced to resign. And I will note within their own party, they're both at about 50% popularity ratings. That, of course, is a very dangerous number because it's one thing if you don't have the support of the overall electorate, but when you don't even have the real support of your own party, those are the types of numbers that you can say adios amigos, goodbye, see you later.
We know what this typically means here in the United States, low numbers like this. What have numbers this low, if there have ever been numbers this low, mean for people in power in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, okay, so I went back through the history books, looked back through all the stats, all the old British polls that I can find. Okay, let's take a look at UK PMs with ratings as bad as Starmer's. Look at this. All lost or resigned before their next election. So nobody who has had numbers as bad as Keir Starmer has ever survived numbers this bad, just like Richard Nixon didn't survive numbers this bad back in 1974.
So then what are the prediction markets saying about what could happen to Starmer?
Okay, so what are the prediction markets saying what happened to Keir Starmer? Take a look here. Chance Starmer is out of power by the end of August. Already 59% chance that Keir Starmer is out of power by the end of August. If there was a market later on, I bet this number would climb even higher. But at this point, Keir Starmer has a major-sized political problem, and I don't think the news of today will help him much.
So that's the Americans now making fun of Keir Starmer and saying, you know, he's not going to be in for much longer. Got a couple of people mentioning the wine show. Is the wine show been cancelled? No, we're doing Plonk of the Week straight after this, but it will go out Saturday night. That's what we do. So we'll tell you over the course of the next 24 hours exactly what wines we will be tasting with Chris Walkie. Kev has sent me a nice super chat. Thank you very much. I've already read that one out, though, I think, which is very good. It's been an amazing day. Thanks for being around. You make my day, says Cindy Smith with the super chat. Thank you very much, Cindy. She's reporting in all the way from the United States of America. Anna McGovern's here for the first time. Anna, very nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I don't think you've ever been on my show, have you?
No, I don't think I've actually met you before in person.
No, you would have remembered it, I'm sure. It would have been a very memorable experience for you if it had actually...
Most memorable.
Yeah, a lot of people meet me once and then never see me again. Anyway, listen, so welcome to the show, the Mike Graham Show, and thank you for coming in. We're going to talk a bit about Andrew in a minute, but you're also here to talk about the Women's Safety Initiative. So tell us a bit about that.
So the Women's Safety Initiative is a group of women who have come together to protest mass immigration.
Yes.
There's been a huge loss of trust in the government in this country actually doing anything about it.
Well, they don't seem to care, do they?
No, they don't. And I think women's safety is being jeopardised as a result. And I'd say the messaging from the Women's Safety Initiative is essentially that mass immigration is the biggest threat to women's safety in this country.
Yes. And who are you telling that to in politics, in the government, for example? Have you had any conversations with Jess Phillips, for example, who seems to be very concerned about safety for women and girls?
So I know WSI, they will work with any politician that is interested about women's safety, but I think, there are certain politicians that don't have the same concern.
Right.
And I think as well, it's because there's that fear of them being called racist as well. Even this is such a prevalent issue.
Also, fear of losing their seat, I think, is another fear. Is there a word for that phobia? Fear of losing your seat? Because they're all frightened, aren't they, of basically losing power because of the block vote that they're frightened of.
No, exactly. So they're fearful of losing their seat. They're fearful of being branded racist, and that's why women's safety is then being jeopardised as a result. So recently there was a protest in London, like a demonstration at the Amelia demonstration, where a group of women. So for those of you who don't know, Amelia became accidentally a figure,
she's an AI figure, isn't she?
And she's an AI figure with a purple wig, and and she was in government-funded programs, like a game, where she was branded, but essentially she was meant to be the villain of this game, where she was being outspoken about immigration and such, but then she's actually become a figure for the right wing and like a hero to them. So
because I've seen a picture on your Twitter of you and is it Charlotte Gill who's involved in this
I'm
as
not
well?
actually in that picture, but
you're not?
there's all the members. So you've got Jess Gill in there's Grace, and like various members.
And then they're all wearing the purple wig. So how come you're not in it then?
I had to work that day.
Oh, right, okay.
But they all went.
Have you got a purple wig?
No.
I mean,
she has all the purple wigs.
I mean, if you bring me a purple wig, I'll put one on.
That'd be great.
And show solidarity with the
next time
with the Women's Safety Initiative. That might be good. No, an orange one. That's Angela Rayner, though, which we put on for Plank of the Week. So, what's your aim then, as far as what would you like to see happening?
I think for the Women's Safety Initiative, it's about, for a start, a big part of it is raising awareness of the issue in of itself and not being afraid to call it out, because many politicians and those in power are too afraid to call out the problem. I actually did appreciate Rupert Lowe. He did a tweet essentially about women's safety and saying that Restore Britain, they will not be fearful of calling it out, which I think that those who care about women's safety in this country, they'll really appreciate. And I think with Restore Britain as well, they'll probably be more inclined to vote for that. So it's about that. It's about bringing women's testimonies to life as well, because there's countless women part of the organisation all across the country, all with their own stories that felt like they haven't been heard for such a long time by the government. So it's about bringing them together. There's like chapters all over where they can share their stories and just keep raising awareness of the issue.
And you live in London, do you?
I don't actually live in London. I live down in Hastings.
Oh, do you? In Hastings?
I do.
Okay, I know Hastings well.
Yeah.
How are you finding it down there? Because a lot of people say to me that, as women, it's becoming a lot more difficult just to walk around without getting harassed and harangued by people who would appear to be from somewhere else. What's Hastings like?
Well, I think London, it's completely different. I do find that Hastings is a lot safer for me personally. But yeah, in terms of London, oh my God, like at night, I was doing another show last night and I was only a 10-minute walk away from the studio, and the presenters were like, "No, you can't walk on your own for 10 minutes because it's late and it's dangerous." And oh my gosh, with the women as well involved in the Women's Safety Initiative, so many different stories where they felt jeopardised by their safety, just even walking around at night on a night out with their friends, feeling exposed. I remember once, this was a few years ago, I was out with my friend and we were looking for a taxi, and then this man came up to us and I think he could tell that we were looking for a taxi, and he was like, "I'm a taxi," and we were like, "Are you a taxi?" And he's like, "I have a car, I'm a taxi." It's like, it was just his own car, and he's trying to get. Obviously, we realised he was not a taxi, so we did not get in his car. But say if there were like a group of women there who say they're very vulnerable, they could be drunk, and then they think they're getting into a taxi, you don't know where you're going to end up. So many different stories.
So
like
there are
that.
things that you don't do now if you're out and about, or places that you don't go.
Oh no, 100%. Especially at night, like you don't go out on your own at night. I remember even during the day once I was sat in a Starbucks and someone came up to me and started waving a newspaper in my face. Just out of nowhere, I was just sat there on my laptop, brought a newspaper over, started shaking it in my face. I was so confused, like what is going on? And then runs off and my phone's gone.
No.
Yeah, I know. And everyone's watching as well. This happened and no one said a word.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people.
Well, I had my phone pinched, must be a year ago in last October, something like that. A guy literally just came out of nowhere. I was standing at a bus stop and I did the thing that you're never supposed to do, which is to get my phone out to look at it. And he was so good at it. He was on a moped and he just plucked it out of my hand, didn't even touch me.
Oh my God.
With gloves on, and then was off. And then there was a police officer opposite in a police van. And I sort of flagged him down and he stopped and he said, "Oh, I'm really sorry to see you've just had your phone nicked." I went, "Yeah." I said, "Aren't you going to go after him?" He's, "Oh, well, I can't do that because, the curb's a bit high for the van." And I'm like, "Right." I said, "Well, I guess I can report it to you." Then he said, "Oh, it's probably best to do it online." And then he said, "I had my phone pinched last week." and he's a police officer.
Oh my God!
I'm
I think as well because it's we're seeing it so much happen in London with people's phones being stolen. You know, you stood on the street, you're walking, and then they're swiped out of your hand. I've heard some stories as well. Like one girl I know, that a guy actually went up to her and physically like grabbed it out of her hand, and she held on for dear life and luckily managed to keep the phone on her.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you now. I mean, if you are a victim of crime like that, you're kind of thanking your lucky stars that you didn't get hit over the head or you didn't actually get hurt or anything like that. I mean, I've got this. I mean, I didn't actually ask for this case, but there's now a case where you can put your finger through it like that. But if they rip that out of your hand, I mean, you might take your finger with you.
Oh my God!
You know what I mean? And or break it or
it's so
something.
dangerous, and as well. By the time you've reported it, because it's happening so like all over London, it's happening so much that I remember when I reported my phone being stolen, it took them 2 days to respond. By then, my phone's probably not even in the country.
Yeah. Well, I ended up writing a piece of the Telegraph about my phone getting nicked, and it was only after I wrote that the police suddenly got back in touch and were like, "Oh, we'd like to help you get your phone back." And I'm like, "Well, I've been telling you for 3 days exactly where it is. It's there." Because you could see where it was, you know, on Find My iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, "Well, we can't recommend going there, and we can't go there." And you know.
Why couldn't they go there? Even
Well,
though
exactly.
It's like pinpointed
I mean,
at that address.
you'd think if you had that kind of evidence that, you know, look, this is an electronic device, it's being tracked, there it is, go and get it. You'd think that would be easy.
You think so, but no, it's happening so much, and I think so. With back to the Women's Safety Initiative as well, like women, of course, they're at more danger, just like physically as well. And I think there's too many people in power, like politicians, they're too afraid to call it out for what it is and what's actually caused the issues that we're seeing in this country as well, because nothing's being done. So that's why the women have come together to, you know, say something about it, do something about it, because no one else is.
Well, Starmer, of course, just talks a good game, doesn't he? But he doesn't actually do anything. He keeps telling us how concerned he is about the victims.
Mike,
yeah.
why don't you ask Anna? Why doesn't your organisation start totting up just the number of sexual assaults of various kinds that have been conducted under this, you know, in the period that can be identified in some way? Because the stats themselves would be absolutely shocking to people. We have some very nasty people in our country. I don't think we should be importing more nasty people to carry out more offences against the women are suffering from already.
So I know the Women's Safety Initiative, they have a number of studies on their website. Right. I believe there's one, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 1 in 4 sex crimes are committed by a foreign national in this country.
That's right.
And then Afghans are 20 times more likely to do so. So yeah, I know they've got a number of testimonies.
And it seems like almost every week or two there's another Afghan asylum seeker stroke illegal migrant up in court on some sex assault charge or worse, you know?
And I think as well, because nothing's being done in this country because they're too scared to call it out for what it is. And then as well, I think when you're importing en masse people from a culture that do not respect women, of course you're going to see more of these crimes. Of course, more women are going to feel endangered because you're importing people from countries that don't respect women.
Yeah. And this is the thing I was about to say about Starmer, you know, because he was all over it, wasn't he, when he was apologising for employing Peter Mandelson, even though he knew Peter Mandelson had been continually friendly with a known paedophile, a convicted paedophile. And he said, oh, well, now we have to think about the women and girls and the safety issues and, you know, we have to think about the victims. Well, he didn't think about them when he gave him the job.
Nope.
And he doesn't think about them, as you say, on a day-to-day basis, just in terms of ordinary British women walking the streets of the country.
No, exactly. And I think that's why there's just so little trust, if any trust, in this government, because I think as well that I think it's too late to be saying something like that. People wanted to hear that before. Right. So yeah, I think that's why like the WSI's formed. There's a lot of people calling it out more than ever because nothing's being done.
Yeah, absolutely right. Oakleaf says, my first job in the late 90s, they gave the women recruits an alarm to carry in our bags, a large international company looking after their staff. Do you carry an alarm with you?
No, I don't, but I've heard people that do that. You know, as well, like, you know, like rape alarm, is it?
Yeah, rape alarm or
you can't carry pepper
mace.
spray.
You're not allowed to have pepper spray, are you?
Yeah, I think in America you can,
yeah,
but no, not in the UK, which is insane.
It is insane.
I think,
because they'd actually prosecute you for having pepper spray as opposed to the man who was trying to rape you.
That is insane to me.
Right.
So like there's something that's meant to protect women and can prevent you from being raped, and then it's actually the woman who would then be prosecuted. That's insane.
Absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? Let's finish up with Prince Andrew, all over the front pages of the newspapers. You're probably too young to remember the Diana scandals that Kelvin and I were talking about, but I mean, This doesn't make us look great as a country, does it?
No, I mean, on his birthday, I mean, look at that picture.
That's horrendous.
I think that's the most embarrassing thing for
Somebody
him.
said
It's
to
a
me
shame.
yesterday when I posted it, he looks a bit like Nosferatu. About to come out of his coffin.
I've seen on X as well all the memes that have come out about this. I've seen an AI video about just of this image created that I think it's about like Pizza Express and sweating and everything like that. So it's become a complete joke. He's a laughing stock, not just in this country but across the world. Everyone's reporting this. Like, it's a front page of almost every single news story, and I don't think there is any coming back from this. Of course, this is a developing story. We're going to learn more, but I just think this is not a good look. This is someone who's ashamed and...
And also, I wonder what he had planned yesterday, because obviously he didn't know the cops were going to show up at 8 a.m. with 6 cars, right? And people were making jokes about all of that. But you imagine probably he might have, I don't know, he might have had his daughters visiting him or something, or would he have had a friend coming over? I just don't know.
To Sandringham?
Yeah. I mean, presumably he would have been having some kind of plan to celebrate his birthday.
Yeah,
66.
I can imagine it's a very unwelcome surprise first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
And then
I mean, that's the other joke people made, that when they first turned up, you thought it was a strippogram. And of course it turned out not to be. It was actually, the real police. We've come to take you away. Ha ha. Yeah, so, I mean, what do you think should happen to Andrew when all of this is said and done? Should he be removed from the line of succession? I mean, Rafe Heidelmann-Koo told us this morning that he doesn't think he could be actually removed because you'd have to give the right to the Commonwealth countries to make that kind of decision.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then suddenly they'd all possibly say, actually, why don't we just get rid of all of them? I mean, do you think Charles is going to survive this?
I think the public will be very interested to see in how he responds to this. We've had a statement, but I think as well, this is a developing story, so I'll be very interested to see as more information comes out, what is Charles going to do? I'm pretty sure he said it's business as usual, duties as usual with the royals. I think Anne, like the media, I think they're trying to question her as well. I think she was at some events and she didn't answer questions.
Well, it must be really embarrassing because, I mean, Anne, for all of her faults, has always been pretty straightforward as an individual. She's always been a very hard-working member of the royal family. And, I mean, you see some of the footage now of her standing next to Andrew, and you can tell that for the last few years, people have just been like, Jesus, just don't talk to me. No. Just please. He's like, talk about the black sheep of the family.
It's embarrassment across the world for the royal family at the moment. He's put them all to shame, and you can see that. Yeah. I mean, the practicalities of him being removed in
he's made Harry look sensible, hasn't he?
He does, which is quite hard.
Which is quite a hard thing to do.
You didn't think it could get worse than
I
this.
know. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Well, Anna, lovely to meet you. Nice to see you. Good luck with the thing. Have you got any events coming up that people should know about? With the Women's Safety Initiative?
I think there are more coming up. I think you have to keep an eye on the social media pages. I think it's Women's Safety _UK for any future events.
All right, great. Thank you very much indeed. Lord Petrolhead has sent us a super chat. It says, absolutely brilliant show this morning. Love the glitches and the guests, and 15,000 viewers again, onwards and upwards. Yeah, thank you very much indeed to all of you for watching. It's been quite a week, really, hasn't it? Incredible. If you had said to me at the beginning of this week, you'd be looking at pictures on Friday of Prince Andrew lying in the back of a car with his eyes kind of blazing red because of the fact that he looks like he's just literally been given an electric shock. I mean, it's extraordinary. Now he's sweating. Front page. And no doubt there will be more developments over the course of the weekend. Tonight, Andrew looks absolutely terrified, says Monica, a sudden realisation of his fate. Yeah, I can't imagine what you must be like now to be Andrew. But overnight, no doubt there will be more developments, and we'll be keeping you in touch with Plank of the Week, which goes out tonight at 7 o'clock. I want to say thank you to all of our guests. Will Geddes, thank you very much indeed. Kelvin McKenzie, very funny man. We'll be back. In fact, we may have some news on that front coming next week if we manage to get I was going to say get our shit together. No, can't say that. Anyway, thanks to Charlotte, who manned the gunnels very well, considering the fact that we couldn't actually hear any guests, which was very good. Robert Jobson, who managed to come on the phone, which was great. And of course, in addition to Plank of the Week, we're about to film Plonk of the Week with Chris Walkie and his son Oliver, who will be opening some fizz for us, I think. And we'll be doing a bit of that and putting it out tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So look out for that. Meantime, his eyes were blazing red because the flashes were going off on the cameras. Really? You think? I mean, I know that, but I'm making a theatrical point, because it makes him look even more ridiculous because one of his eyes is blazing red. The show today was fantastic, funny and random. says Philip. Simon says, another good show today. Thank you for your super chat. Say what you like. There's no Ofcom, says the UK Freedom Network. Well, not so far anyway. Brilliant work, Charlotte. You represented women like a star, says Cindy Smith. Very nice. See you all on Monday. Have a lovely weekend, says Meow Amoog. Thank you to all of you for watching. It is coming up to 9:30, not only on my clock here, but also on the international clock as well that you can see behind me. We'll be back with more great guests next week. Have a fantastic weekend. Remember to keep an eye on Keir Starmer as well, because he's bound to go somewhere sometime soon. Meanwhile, have a very good time. Remember, no matter how many people you see out there, and no matter how many planks you see, try not to be one yourself.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.